up your life. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Very good morning to you. 6:01 a.m. on the 3rd of October 2019. Welcome to Thursday. This is the Situation Room. Good morning, Ndu Oko.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
I am very fine, thank you.
It is the 3rd of October.
What did I say? December? November?
No, you said October.
Okay, yeah.
I just
So it's the
realized
3rd,
actually
yes.
it is the 3rd of
Can you
October.
imagine? Just a few more days.
And then what?
And then the year is gone.
Has
We
a
start
song
talking about
ever-
2020.
Has a song ever been sung about the 3rd of October?
No, it's just...
Something
I
about
thought to
November.
myself, there's November, there's September, but there's really nothing about October.
Really? There's something about August?
It just jumped out to me for some reason.
something
Good
about-
morning, Eric.
Good morning, City. How are you?
I am very well, thank you.
That sounds like you're really very, very well.
I am well. I am well. It's been an interesting week, and it looks like it's going to get even more interesting.
Yes, interesting. Some bits of it annoying completely. Others, just shocking.
Shocking, Eric. Shocking.
Shocking.
Okay, clearly you have something in mind.
Not
which is shocking.
expected. That things would go that way.
Eric is referring to something that he knows about, and I get the feeling that he will tell us
He's
at
going
some
to
point.
tell
At some point, right?
Yes,
It'll
because-
come out.
Because I'm thinking shocking.
He's keeping us in suspense.
Yes.
So let's take a look at what's in the news this morning. 7.3 billion dirty cash locked out. That's the equivalent of the Golden Bugs scandal.
Why are we calling it dirty cash?
Well, because the money that was supposed to have been there was not actually handed over back to the government, So, because the intention of part of the intentions of the CBK doing this cash thing was to net and to nab money laundering, illicit money and all. So the assumption is that those people who did not return the money, many of them were actually holding some illegal cash that they could not account for by taking it to the bank.
That's the assumption. I was, again, assuming that if they had returned it to the bank, then the purposes for that money was clean and straightforward.
Well, you see, what's the yardstick here? There was no money. From what period of time? You see, when the government says this is the amount of money we have out there, are we assuming that this is money within the boundaries of Kenya? And is it something that can actually be returned? The physical fiduciary issue, because that's what we're referring to, is used within East and Central Africa.
Yep.
It's not just in Kenya.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So now, you do not know what other use people. You see, you assume that the only way you can exchange that money is in Kenya, and if you exchange for the new notes. Not so. I was once surprised when I actually went to Switzerland. Surprised. Very surprised.
Another surprise.
The surprise was, I tried to get Swiss francs in Kenya. It was a very tall order. At the airport, they actually have what we call a forex bureau, the equivalent. And among the currencies they list there is the Kenyan shilling.
Interesting.
Yes. And you give them Kenyan shillings, they give you.
Swiss francs.
Yes. Now, I've gone to Switzerland, but I want to bring it to our borders. Let's talk about Somali, who do a lot of their business in Kenya. You'd find a lot of our currency maybe resident there. Tanzania, Uganda, those borders of ours. Sudan. these are people who do a lot of business with Kenya. And they understand that the Kenyan shilling is sometimes a far more accepted currency than their own in certain circumstances. So you tell me, if somebody has money in those places,
Are you assuming that they did not know, they were not aware that this is actually happening? Are you assuming that the information was only contained within the boundaries
I'm
of Kenya?
trying to say that they would have no obligation whatsoever.
They would.
No.
Loss of value.
Yes, loss of value according to us.
But perhaps what it actually is nothing, is a drop in the ocean compared to what
Yes.
they actually do have.
Yes. So it doesn't really matter.
So it doesn't matter to them.
No,
It may
doesn't
matter to the CBK, but for them, it doesn't really
It
matter.
doesn't really matter.
Up to a tune of 7 billion shillings.
You need to understand
So
the
you're talking
kinds.
about somebody who's holding
No,
100
no.
million shillings. and
You
it
are
doesn't
thinking
matter.
of an individual.
Yeah, it's
and
I'm actually
and
thinking of an individual. Let's assume
that
Assume.
this
that
one
they have
individual did
I
not
am
return
thinking-
100
7
million.
billion.
I
No,
am thinking
100 million.
this is money that have we been given the time frame within which this particular these number of notes were issued? It's over a long period of time. Is that not so?
We're not talking about June to September
No,
2019.
it's been in existence.
Yeah.
Now, all that time before the deadline was given, what do you think would have happened to that money?
You know, the CBK usually just goes around, looking at the serial number. So they see if we issued this note this year, by this time that we get back that money into the CBK, because the money is tattered, it's dilapidated, it's old, it's not looking as it should. So we get that money back and we deal with it. They keep doing that all the time.
Yes,
So the
they
cash
do.
that they're talking about is actually cash that they consider to be, proper, like good looking.
It is.
So to speak.
It is good currency. I wasn't talking about the currency that they remove from circulation. No, the CBK keeps a very, very good account. I'm simply saying this, that one, money that has been circulation over a long period of time, who's to tell where that money went to and what it's doing? That's all I'm saying. Because when you talk about the time frame that were given from June, well,
Not much.
Not much.
no, given the volumes that we're speaking of, no,
Not much.
no. And also, what makes us think that the Central Bank of Kenya is telling us everything that's going on?
This is the thing. We can't know that what they're actually saying
This
is...
mistrust of government.
No, it's
all
not
the
about
time.
mistrust, but I think that there are certain things, especially when it comes to money and you're looking at it coming from government to treasury. I mean, literally, I don't think they're going to share all the information or the details with us. Clearly, there's money that they've not been able to collect. We don't know how much.
Could be more than
really.
7
It
billion.
could be more. It could be less. We don't know. And that's just the truth. We do not know. And I don't think, it's within their prerogative not to share all of the information with us, But apparently there's something that's haunting Ruto, and it's the Murumbi land ownership row. A lobby has written to the DCI, DPP, and EACC seeking to have the deputy president investigated over irregular purchase of 900-acre parcel of former VP's vast ranch. And I guess this is the haunting that we are talking about, because the land that he has seems to have been, according to this lobby, seems to have been acquired illegally. And he's been sucked into another controversy after a human rights lobby group demanded an investigation into his acquisition of a 900-acre plot of land. In a letter to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the Trusted Society of Human Rights questioned the acquisition 4 years ago of the Intona Ranch land in Transmara West Sub-County by the Deputy President after paying off a loan owed to the Agricultural Finance Corporation by the late Murumbi. So there is something else that's going to grab our headlines, of course, because it involves the name of the
The
Vice
deputy president's
President.
name, yes. This man had a huge tract of land, 2,065
65 acres. Yes.
given allocated to him by the Narok government. And then he had taken a loan with the Agriculture Finance Corporation, which apparently had he defaulted on.
This is who?
Joseph Murumbi.
The late Murumbi.
The late Murumbi.
Yeah.
Died in 1990. And then apparently there was an issue of settling that loan. And that's where this particular company that's associated with the deputy president called North Mogor Holdings is said to have come in and bought 900 acres of that land. So this civil society group says, no, let's investigate how the whole process of acquiring this piece of land
Came about, exactly.
This unfortunately follows revelations in the past, especially after the issues we had in 2007 and 8, of people claiming that their land was actually taken from them by the same deputy president. He wasn't deputy president then. Yes. There was a gentleman by the name of Muteshi who seemed to have lost 100 acres. The matter went to court. He won. And then there was the toing and froing of whether he should, of him just being paid the nuisance money factor that came into being because his land had been taken from him.
Right.
You know, it's unfortunate, but if you're a politician and you've had one story spread about you that painted you in a negative light, thereafter everything else that even touches on the very same subject, if it is land, you will not be given the time of day. It will assume something wrong took place.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
This is why the words are being used that we see today haunt. William Ruto is being
There's something
haunted
even more interesting
once
here,
again.
I think. Mudavadi, in his trip abroad, has decided to tell the citizens of Kenya, he was addressing a group of people in the diaspora, tell them how and why the handshake came into being. And according to him, the handshake came into being because Western countries threatened the opposition that they would not get visas to travel to those countries if they didn't shake hands.
Right.
Yes.
He was in the opposition. Was he saying he was
No.
threatened? And
By
why
the
did
time
he
the
shake
handshake
hands?
came about, I think that had disintegrated.
He was in NASA.
Yeah. So who was the opposition then being threatened?
No, at the time of the handshake, according to him, the opposition, of course, would include him.
Yes.
But then with Mudavadi, is he really ever in the opposition?
I'm just glad he's saying something, to be honest.
That he's speaking out.
No, I'm not being facetious here. I'm merely asking the question because when someone lays claim to understanding how it is and why the handshake took place, activities of that nature are never answered or responded to or explained by a statement like that.
Exactly.
It's far more complex. These things are never, ever, ever that simple.
Plus, you have to look at the timing of a statement like this that was made. Why now? You're asking, why now? Why at this juncture is now that statement being made when already possible candidacy for 2022 has
Maybe he's
been
actually also
declared?
chosen the place to speak by going to speak in the USA.
He did get a lot of attention, media attention, whilst abroad. I noticed KTN giving him a lot of coverage, which speaks volumes. Because there was a lot of other leaders abroad during the United Nations General Assembly, but he did get I don't want to say unnecessary coverage, but he did get a lot of attention. So they could be grooming him, whoever they is. They, the men in grey.
By the way, state can share Huduma details without your consent.
Oh, here we go.
Just so that you know.
Share with whom?
Anybody. Information gathered during registration will be shared with agencies without notifying the persons concerned, quote told.
Oh, shared with agencies.
Well, our data protection laws,
Are
the lack
wanting.
of, there's none actually, even when you go into a building in Nairobi, you probably have to sign in, give your telephone number,
Your
give your ID
ID.
number and so on. This could be shared with anybody. In terms of data, it's becoming the next big thing and collecting data. So let's see what happens, what they can do with it.
But perhaps I should read a summary of what the PS actually said. He was in court actually. This is what he said.
Being grilled by the one and only Martha Karua.
Information will be shared between government agencies. There was no option of declining. The government should not share your information. Gathering data on minors was done based on executive order. So our rights have now been abrogated by executive order. Okay, that isn't there. I'm the one who's commenting. By definition, biometric means government can take your DNA, iris or earlobes details, meaning
Yes.
they can take all details about you.
Yes.
Okay.
But to be honest, other than being alarmist, what are the pitfalls? What could happen? What are the dangers? Other than sort of protecting you, so finding criminals or maybe knowing. It's important to have data for
And this
government.
actually
It's
it's
very
being shared
important.
within government agencies. It's obvious. I mean, you're collecting as government. So if planning wanted some information,
For
planning
resource
gets.
distribution and so on, you do need to have this data. So I want to see why
The
we
issue
complain
never
and
was the data. The issue was data being collected when data already exists. That really was the issue.
Maybe they needed to update their database.
Maybe.
Yeah,
And actually,
maybe.
they've said that they needed to update their data. They needed to consolidate information.
All this may be true. What really is the elephant in the room is government speak, in my estimate, is rarely trustworthy.
To be honest, I don't know what the hullabaloo about data and government collecting data is. We give a lot of data voluntarily on Facebook, on Twitter, on sort of platforms, and they say they're going to use our data. And we saw this with Cambridge
Yes, but we
Analytica.
accept that. You see, you are comparing data that someone voluntarily gives. This one wasn't voluntary.
It was.
Why would there be any resistance? It was voluntary as well. There was no threat. There was no...
Oh, there was a threat.
There was no
What was the
order.
threat of not
Oh,
going?
there was a threat.
What was the threat of not registering?
The threat, the spoken, not unspoken. First of all, deadlines were given. This thing must be done by this time.
Right.
Then there was the threat of, if you do not have a Huduma number, there's a likelihood that you will not be able to access certain government services. If that isn't the
yes.
threat, what is it?
That
It's a
was
statement
said.
of fact.
But it's interesting because yesterday, during the court proceedings, after the grilling by Martha Karua, the PS actually did come out and say they never did say that it was mandatory. And it came out that they did. So
They
now
did.
there's
Well,
a
when
lot
the
of
government makes
backtracking
something
that's being
mandatory,
done now.
it has to be enshrined within the law. It has to be underpinned by some law or statute, which it wasn't. So sometimes government rhetoric can sound like a threat, and they do use this to encourage or dissuade people from doing something or not doing something. But
What
if it
it
was
does,
mandatory, they would have...
It encourages people to mistrust them.
Yes, exactly. Because then you hear this.
What
Because
is
what
it-
happens is you hear this later and you think, my goodness, it really wasn't necessary. So in the next instance,
what
when
was
there's
it
a
for
government,
then?
yeah, or when there's
what is
another
it you
government,
think they can do with
Well,
our data?
what I'm saying is this:
Oh,
the danger that
loads.
it poses
Such
is that
as?
the danger that it poses is that in the event when there is another government drive, people are not going to come out because they will feel that it's just another case where they've had to waste their time or where they've been threatened with non-access to government services, etc., because that is what happened previously.
Well, maybe government can show us the benefits and advantages of having registered, and that would be encouraging to get involved in the next
When
program.
they put it into proper use. You see, now Huduma number has actually been halted because of this court case. So the implementation of what they intended to do with the Huduma number cannot be felt because there's a court case which has halted the entire process.
But
So
they have all the information from the census anyway,
Yep.
so they were duplicating the exercise either way.
Voila. State finally joins Likoni ferry recovery efforts. Operation hampered by poor visibility under deep waters, even as the team turns to technology in search. And the technology that we are looking at now is robots. Robots have been deployed, or at least the conversation was started yesterday, to have them enter into the waters because we're looking at deep waters here. And as of yesterday, they still had not been able to recover the bodies. The team has, however, identified 14 points where the vehicle might be stuck under the deep waters of the Likoni Channel. Using technology and divers, the team worked on the points for close to 2 hours, during which no vessels were allowed to operate to calm the seawater and increase visibility. According to Transport CS James Masharia, we have put a South African firm on standby and we will foot all the cost, even if it hits 1 billion shillings, to recover the bodies.
I don't know why they're on standby. Why not go ahead and
Why are they
deploy
not
them
here now?
immediately? But I understand it's difficult for the government. Maybe there's restricted resources or what have you. But we're talking about 60 meters here. I remember a while back where there was a tragedy and there was a Russian submarine that was a mile deep. It was a mile down, and there was an accident that happened. And they got some Norwegian divers to go in and rescue, although the efforts failed in terms of by the time they got there, the people had died. But this is a mile below the sea. Here we're talking about 60 meters, surely.
Well, good news for meat eaters. It's really good news. Research conducted over a long period of time by scientists at McMaster and Dalhousie universities have found this. 12 trials involving 54,000 people, that there really is no significant or known harm that reducing the eating of red meat or eating it actually does in contributing to heart diseases or any of the diseases that have been touted.
I knew that something that tasted so good can't be bad for you.
red meat is good.
I knew.
The thing is, none of us are getting out of here alive. There's no harm in indulging or
But there's been a lot
in
of
moderation.
misinformation on red meat versus white meat. The red meat is more harmful to you, but it's all in the preparation as well.
It's all in where your meat comes from and what you feed your meat on. Remember, you have places on this planet where you are asked the sort of meat you want. Do you want from a cow that is grass-fed or grain-fed? Now, if you come from Kenya, it's a very puzzling question because what else do cows eat? Really?
All cows eat grass.
Yes, as far as we're concerned. So, research tends to do that. Remember, research is specific, and unless you understand what it is that they were seeking to determine in the first place, and it's usually fairly narrowed, they can misinform you. There's a time I told butter was bad for you.
And then they told us butter's better for you than margarine. So
Margarine
now where
is
are we?
plastic.
So which?
So margarine is bad for you now?
It's horrible for you.
Now here's the other
But you shouldn't
scientist
touch it
telling
at
us
all.
the same
Oh
thing.
no.
Unless you want to cook with it. Margarine is actually harmful. Yes, it is.
Unless you want to bake with it, so you turn it into something else.
No, it's plastic.
Yeah.
You won't find microorganisms coming to margarine. If you leave it open, you're not going to find even fungi growing on it. You're not going to find any bacteria coming to it.
It's not a
So why we're ingesting it, God only knows. Sorry, Blue Band.
All right, phantom, ghost, all these extraterrestrial beings somehow seem to find their way into the country when it comes to money that has disappeared. 30 million shillings, KPC on the spot, over 30 million shilling phantom deal. System was paid before it even started working. Taxpayers lost 30 million shillings paid by the Kenya Pipeline Company to an Italian firm in 2015 for the procurement of a budget management system which has since stalled, and the money was paid before any kind of testing was done, and chalking it up to yet another incident of huge amounts of money having been lost because due diligence was not done.
That isn't true. When that amount of money gets lost or is taken, due diligence was done.
Due diligence was done in the
how-
taking of
Yes,
them, in how the money was looted.
Yes.
I'm surprised it's made the papers. We're usually dealing in the billions. I've become desensitized to anything below a billion.
In fact, I was also wondering. 30
30 million,
are
just
you
a
really-
little
That's
bit of
nothing.
money.
Can you imagine that's
Can you
our
imagine
mindset
that's
as
where we've
Kenyans?
gone?
Did you get the figure right?
Yes, I did.
30. So wait.
That's all. That's
Unfortunately,
okay.
That's small.
What's in the news then? So let's take a look at what's happening in across the country, especially let's start with Likoni right out of this break. Nduoko has something to tell us as Kenyans because she thinks that we are not angry enough and we should be getting angry. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation on Spice FM. It's 22 minutes after 6.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
You're in the Situation Room with me, Eric Latif, Nduoko, Njeri, Thorn, and CT Muga. We are, of course, live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, and on YouTube, Spice FM KE. Our hashtag on Twitter is Situation Room, and our Twitter handle is Spice FM KE. Please do follow us. We'd love your company. And you can call in during our conversations on 0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Ndu.
Looking at what happened over the last couple of days and how we have not been able to get any kind of answers, and even what happened days before that with what we see at the Precious Talent School off Ngong Road and the tragedies that have happened recently, there has been outrage, but there's only been outrage for a certain number of days, and then we forget one and move to the next, as has always been the case. I believe that when we speak up, definitely somebody is listening, or somebody should listen. One life lost is one life too many, especially when they can be avoided. What has happened in the aftermath of all of this is that we have seen that we have turned a blind eye to systemic failures that should not be the case. And the blind eye has been so common and has become really a part of our makeup and structure that we don't get surprised. Our values are really now have disappeared. We don't get outraged, or even if we do get outraged, it's only for a short period of time, and then we move on to the next. We expect the bad to happen. We have to ask ourselves whether we are okay with leaving, deaths like this to happen, and we're not asking questions in terms of who's responsible or what needs to be done. We have become a scandal-fatigued nation. Things happen and we just let it roll off our backs as if it is not a big deal. Yesterday, we had the senator for Nairobi really emotional about what this scandal brought about, or what this latest tragedy brought about. But we should be able to do more than just be emotional. We need to demand. Our outrage, yes, we should be angry, but our outrage should go beyond just being outraged. And we should now begin to be able to demand for value on lives. We as ourselves need to speak up. We cannot continue to blame the government in everything when we are not being outraged to the level that we should. Last week we saw 8 students die, and we say that the conversations need to happen in order for us to then have some kind of change, or at least have some kind of attention applied to what it is that we are discussing, or the things that we see happening right before our eyes. And we talk about one issue. Precious Talent happened last week? It was last week. It was literally 2 weeks ago. And within a week's time, we have yet another tragedy. So we've shifted our attention from Precious Talent, and now we have gone to Mombasa with the tragedy that happened at the ferry. And we can easily say that we've forgotten about that because something just as bad or even worse has happened, and our outrage levels have sunk. And then we say that, all right, it's who do we demand from? Who do we ask? And it's a sad situation because we see a mother and a child having passed away. But what is it that we are demanding? Why have we become so passive with the way that we see things? I mean, just now we mentioned 30 million shillings. Oh, not a big deal. In fact, we expect it to be more. We are not demanding as much as we should be. And I say that because we are passive as a people does not mean that that is how it has to be. Lives will continue to be lost, and we will not demand of the system what is supposed to actually happen. We keep quiet too much, and things will continue to roll off our backs as if they don't matter, and we cannot continue in a situation like that.
We get annoyed for a short time.
We do.
That's
and then, the bodies...
Last week we were very, very angry.
No, we demonstrate annoyance for a short time.
We're fickle. We do move on very quickly, but we have to remember these incidents are just way too frequent, and we're becoming somewhat desensitized. It happens. I remember I was comparing this to when we first started, if you were watching international news in the beginning, when there used to be bombs in Iraq and so on. And initially you would watch it and be shocked, and your body would go in, the shock and awe factor was there. And what happens is after you've watched it repeatedly over and over, you start to switch channels, 10 dead in a bomb. You become numb to this. And I think that's what's happened here, whereby there's so many incidents, so many tragedies, so many deaths that easily avoidable, completely preventable actually. And what tends to happen is you become numb to it. So unless you're the individual that is directly affected, you see it as a piece of news, and you can see, with the attention media gives it, we move on the next day, the column inches, you'll find, 50 die in bus accident at a corner of a newspaper, and then there's some political story on the headlines. So I think it's indicative of the value we place on human life here in Kenya, but most importantly, it's because we're fickle as Kenyans. We move on, the media drives us to other stories, and maybe we've just been exposed to too many of these incidents one too many times that we've become somewhat desensitized.
When there's an external factor having brought in those circumstances, we tend to have more value, and I'll explain. When we had terrorism, the terrorist attacks at Dusit, when we had the terrorist attacks at Westgate, there was coverage, people were glued, people wanted answers, people were demanding rescue, people demanded this time and time and time again. People participated.
Donating blood.
In this, people donated blood, it was all over. People were very concerned about it, but this was an external factor that we could do nothing about. We couldn't really do anything about it because there was an attack that came from the outside in, and Kenyans rallied together and said, we cannot allow this to continue to happen, etc., until it died down. And then there was a lot of, rallying around. There was a lot of cohesion when it came to healing, etc. But here we are with a tragedy, with tragedies that could have been avoided. Still a factor, but it is internal. And with that, we don't see the kind of rallying that we did from an external. So we do have the ability to be outraged. We just don't when it comes to things that can be avoided. And I'm really having a problem, coming to terms with when something comes from the outside, we can rally together and say we can fight against this, or we can speak up against this. But when it is something that is born from within the nation, something that we can avoid, something that we can manage, something that we can speak up and demand for, we do not. And I don't understand why. Look at what happened at school. Look at what happened at the ferry. Totally avoidable. 100% avoidable.
But we seem to move on like as soon as possible. Even how this has been handled, Maybe part of the reason why the government has been slow to act is because they're hoping, well, just two people, well, just a mother and her daughter, well, we can't do much about this. So the government's, reaction to this is because they were not feeling the pressure from the public until the pressure started building, and now they've sent a PS down there to go on.
Eric, whenever these occurrences take place, they just further exemplify the ineptitude and the confusion that exists within government. If you understand government and you know the investment government makes or the money they set aside for such things, the thinkers and the planners think about these things, they plan for these things. You cannot have a ferry service and not have a rescue service attached to it. It's not possible.
Well, it is in Kenya, clearly.
No. Yes. Kenyans make the impossible possible negatively. Now, when you say we recover, we actually don't.
We don't recover.
No, don't recover.
We don't. At a neurological level, you see, all you do is you stockpile this information. You shunt it aside. It never actually goes anywhere. It's like luggage.
It's trauma of some sort.
Yes, it just builds up. Now, the manifestation of it, if you want to understand, we've talked about there seems to be an increase. You hear of violence, and it's among young people. Someone has been killed. People disagreed. Someone was killed. Someone killed the other.
Someone is a serial killer.
Yes, someone claims they're a serial killer. Or some bizarre happenings. Human beings will not readily deal with something that they feel is traumatizing to them or something they can't handle. They don't. They shelve it. It doesn't go away. They just sort of like push it maybe into your subconscious, but it doesn't actually go away. It'll be there. And what is worse, it actually affects the way you react to things. These so-called mood swings, these so-called problems that people seem to have psychologically, they emanate from these things. Now, our media is contributing to what we're discussing significantly because they highlight bad news all the time. So this is what the minds of our people feed on, bad news all the time.
I think there's a number of factors to consider. It's interesting, the point that Du brings to light, the fact that when it's an external enemy, we're all able to rally up and, sort of come around this incident and come together and support. But it's a common notion. The idea of an external enemy does bring people together. We need to start viewing these failings as the enemy as well. Maybe if we frame it like that, we can begin to put pressure on the government. But of course, also our belief in God. I've heard people say this is an act of God, and that's a sort of indication of helplessness somewhat. We turn to the Almighty and the Divine when we feel we ourselves have no control over it. So it's a sad state of affairs when we start to say that completely preventable tragedies are an act of God. And then with the sort of helplessness we feel, of course, we open ourselves to radicalization. And that's why you see some of these, we were talking about terrorists, some of these terrorist groups are now homegrown, they're local and so on. So it comes with so many dynamics, this lack of value for life that we have in Kenya. When people feel they have nothing to lose, anything is possible. You see crime, you see radicalization. So we need to increase the value of life in this country. We need to value it more. The government needs to show us that they value Kenyan lives.
The Kenyan is a victim, but so is the journalist.
So is a journalist.
So is the journalist.
And the journalist is a Kenyan as well.
Yes.
This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Ndu Oko is raising the issue this morning. Kenyans are not angry enough. We don't seem to be angry enough, or we're not acting well enough on our anger. It's 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. We'd love for you to comment on this conversation. 0719 012 600. Are you angry enough? Good morning.
How well do you know your country? Given a chance, where would you go? Not so many places, huh? Would you even know how to get there? Yes? No? Maybe? I don't know. Well, oh ye gallivanters and tourists alike, here is your chance to not only know, but also visit amazing destinations in Kenya with complete recommendations, guides, and tips on accommodation spots, wellness stops, and food joints all over Kenya. How, you ask? Courtesy of the biggest locally targeted tours and travel magazine, Travelog. Travelogue is your monthly pull-out magazine in the Standard newspaper every first Thursday of the month. With Travelogue, enjoy the beauty of life that Kenya has to offer. Visit exotic and hidden destinations, be part of amazing conservation campaigns and projects as you simply enjoy Kenya. It's our way of putting Kenya on the map. Grab your copy and be aboard the fun wagon as you improve the quality of your local travel experiences. Travelogue, Jione Kenya. Tired of living your same old life? Need to spice it up and add some flavor? Well, we can help you go from living to living it up. East Africa, are you ready to be a part of the most vibrant entertainment scene with the best, freshest music, travel tips and destinations, fashion, tech and health trends, as well as your favorite celebrities' lifestyles? Introducing your favorite entertainment magazine, Pulsar, the ultimate all-in-one guide that will give you more meaning to life. Catch up with your celebrity writers and contributors to stay up to date with what's happening around you, where and how you can be a part of all that. The lifestyle guide that has been missing in your life. Pulsar. Live it up.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
Traffic is building up slowly on Thika Road from all stops, and that will culminate at the CBD Globe Cinema roundabout. There's a cop finally at the City Stadium to stop matatus from dropping passengers in the middle of the road and causing traffic all the way behind. All right, the Southern Bypass at 5. There are people standing on the road waiting for transport at 5 a.m. this morning. Well, all right, Ngong Road is still looking good around about 6:30. But after 6:30, things will change. The best way to beat traffic on Ngong Road is hit the road early, or better yet, stay at home. Wayaki Way from the 87 heading towards the city center is not so bad. Let's see how things change when we get round about 7 o'clock. And we'll let you know how you can diffuse the traffic situation. If you see something that we should know about before then, give us a call, 0719 012 600.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 22 minutes to 7 o'clock, you're in the Situation Room with me, Eric Latif, Jerry Thorne, C.T. Muga, and Ndu Oko, who this morning is saying that Kenyans are not angry enough. Kenyans must not forget their capacity for outrage. Look at what happened last week at the Precious Talent School. Look at what's happening this week in Likoni at the ferry. But you know, so we get angry for a short while and then we forget to move on to the next one, as swiftly as possible. In this particular one of the ongoing Likoni tragedy, we heard the Senator for Nairobi speaking in the Senate yesterday, and he was basically just saying, look, we have seemed to have lost value, especially for Kenyan lives.
Mr. Speaker, as you were speaking, and I'm glad that we've had some effort is being made in Likoni. We lost 2 Kenyans, a mother and a child, a small girl, because of an accident at the Likoni ferry. Where the vehicle rolled off. And we saw videos, very chilling and harrowing, of the vehicle sinking. More than 24 hours later, 48 hours later, there had been no rescue efforts. A few meters away from there, the Navy, the military are practicing, the divers, they're practicing how they will do a showcase during the next national celebration. Something fundamentally wrong with us and how we actually treat Kenyans. I am sure if it was a tourist, if that vehicle was tourists that sank into the ocean, there would be swifter response. If it was a van full of parliamentarians, there would definitely have been swifter response. So even as we debate this motion, which we will debate, and we've passed many motions, we've passed that bill, I think ultimately we need to look at ourselves inherently, our values as a people, on what we do for the least in our society. Because you cannot be able to do big things, even the small things, matters of the heart, matters of common sense. And you cannot legislate on common sense. We cannot create a law to help us empathize. You cannot create a law that will give you a heart. We need to actually think of how we do things in this country. You know, our condolences to the families in that incident. We hope that they're able to retrieve those bodies so that they can be given a good send-off.
Sounds like Sagaja has been listening to our show, to be honest. These are topics we've been covering over the weeks in terms of our value system and the moral degeneration that we see within our social fabric. And he speaks brilliantly about it, although, of course, we can't sort of lecture people into empathy either. We can't lecture and make speeches or sloganeer people into a good value system and morality. So we do really need to think about our value system and be very deliberate. And this is what will lead us into respecting lives and increase the value of human life. Because we do need to be morally outraged. We need anger, because if effectively channeled, it can bring about a lot of social change. And we see this, we have platforms now. So you see Kenyans on Twitter, you know, it's a channel through which they can communicate their anger. But of course, this can also give us a false sense of having, you know, that venting process can then release this anger that we need to manifest and explode in order for us to see change. I'm not a psychologist, but it goes without saying that collective anger can be channeled, if channeled correctly, can lead to very effective social change. And what we're seeing here is that it's too short-lived and it's not being given enough of a platform to write. I think the media could write this out longer. It would put pressure on parliamentarians and we could start to see change. So we see it slightly on social media. And also there is the point that maybe people are, you know, the masses are otherwise engaged in the basics, food and shelter and so on. So they're not too bothered about these incidents, these issues. It doesn't affect them, or it's not them until it actually happens to them. And then they've got to move on anyway because they've got to come up with food for tomorrow. So maybe it's actually a privilege to be able to be angry and show it and sort of bring about social change, perhaps.
You see, the manifestation of anger that we consider to be normal is making loud noises, okay? Or speaking and using words that portray anger. But if I speak very, very generally about the way Kenyans respond to issues, we avoid, our natural approach is avoidance.
Non-confrontational.
Yes, that is the normal Kenyan approach. Now, there are those who would argue with me that there are certain parts of the country where the opposite is true. But either way, it never really gets you to deal with the problem. Not really. It's like Panadol when you have a headache without looking at what is causing the headache. The pain in the head will cease, but what's causing it doesn't quite go away. So even when someone is angry and they shout, any emotion that is expressed, whether you cry, whether you shout, it does relieve you for that moment. But as I was saying, the issue that caused it hasn't actually gone away, has it?
Right.
But we can make this issue go away if this anger, this shouting is effectively channeled into an activity that can put pressure either on the government, on the leadership, on individuals, on society. Well, maybe we need more planning. Maybe
I'm actually saying it shouldn't go away. That's what I'm really saying.
Don't take paracetamol.
No.
Which Twitter
Take it
is.
if you wish, but understand that it doesn't deal with the problem. It deals with the symptom. Okay?
Go to the problem.
Get to the problem. So if you sort of like wanting, if your wish is to have it dissipate, you won't understand it and you won't actually get to deal with it. You see, we keep talking about corruption. This is not our problem. Our problem is not corruption. No, it's impunity. So long as people think they can get away with things. Now, how do Kenyans deal with it? If you confront the government, if you confront somebody powerful, it may not necessarily bode well for you. So what do? Whatever you feel is still there, but you behave as though it is okay. Case in point.
Until it becomes okay, I think.
It never does become okay. This is a point I'm making. Ask yourself, when you hear Kenyans make the statement, kura kwa so-and-so, kula kwa so-and-so, just think for a second about that mindset. Meaning they've gotten to the point where they really don't actually care. They are callous about it.
This is true.
We will take your money, but we know we're not going to vote for you. In cases they'll even tell you to your face they won't vote for you. And this isn't a case that you hear of occasionally. No. It's a mindset that has developed. It's almost like a national credo. We know very well who we'll vote for, but we know very well whose money we're going to take. Now, that is the approach. What happens is this. If you give it long enough, and in our case, it's actually becoming part of our national identity.
This is true, and you can actually see and feel that reverberating through, because if we look at these two incidences that now bring us to discuss the way we are discussing now, look at what happened at Precious Talent. Somebody somewhere could have done better. And you can't tell me that as that building was being looked at day in, day out, it did not cross somebody's mind that,
of course,
this is going to fall
This
apart
is
at some
dangerous,
point.
yes.
But that individual or those individuals collectively over time kept quiet. Just
Even
like you're saying.
even the parents saw this building. It's not that
Exactly.
they didn't see
This is
it.
what I'm saying. Even the parents, the
yes.
children spoke.
If they
was
spoke, it
told-
means they probably spoke to their parents as well.
and they
Yep.
spoke to their teachers, they spoke to their parents, but it was kept quiet. Okay? In Likoni, Mombasa, we've all been on the ferry, I assume. When vehicles are being loaded, people then follow. There is somebody who is standing at the end of that ramp. There is an official of KFS who stands there to make sure that everybody's in. They make the announcement, it is closed, we move on. This individual saw that this vehicle was not in the right place. Okay, the ramp had not been
Not just
totally.
saw, they allowed it.
They allowed
allowed
it.
it.
It was not completely closed, but they probably said, okay, you know what? It's just 100 meters.
Yeah, we
They're going
see
to cross
this,
over.
yeah.
We see this every day. It doesn't happen. We don't put each other to task because of the fact that we have now gotten to the point whereby we don't value life. We do not see the end from what a small action repeatedly could cause. We don't. And then we don't bring each other to task. We don't say anything about it because we don't want to be confrontational, because we don't want to ask questions, because we don't want to demand. And we have to get to the place where we are uncomfortable until we boil over. We have to. We cannot continue in this manner. Otherwise, we'll get to the point
we
where
see it
we're
as
just
a convenience or inconvenience. It's an inconvenience to actually raise an issue that is what you consider sorting out your convenience. Same
this
thing in
case-
the PSVs.
yeah, in this case, I would say, you know what? We can't actually, on every point, blame the government and say, okay, what were they doing? That individual, did he have the government in his pocket when he was looking at that ramp not completely closed? He did not. It was his job to expend his duties as he has been required to do, and he did not. And we have that replicated across the country on so many different levels where people are not doing what they have been tasked to do, and then we have problems, but we don't ask questions, and then we come out and we're angry for 2 days, and then we are done until the next tragedy comes, and then we can complain and do something about it.
You see, when we talk about these things, we sometimes seem to separate state as though it's some extraterrestrial entity that visits us from time to time. And the
From
people
society,
who function
yeah.
within the government, again, as aliens who come with
And
this
they're
stuff.
human
Yes.
beings.
These things that we speak about, the incidences that we speak about, they're managed by Kenyans. What we're discussing, this is a manifestation of the very thing we're saying. Someone who has a duty doesn't do it. Why don't they do it? Why do they feel that you can postpone safety?
Or cut corners.
Yes, or cut corners.
Or that you will deal with death like
Yes,
that
yes.
if it happens.
What you're seeing is exactly what we're discussing. The eventual manifestation and the end result of the accumulation of all these things that we are saying.
So they themselves, these people who have that duty of care, they themselves are desensitized.
Completely.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Completely.
And because they've done it, they've done it
it's
that
not-
way over time, and nobody's ever questioned, nobody's ever asked, and so they feel that it's fine to continue in that manner.
It's not an issue at all.
It's not an issue. Because
Exactly.
that's the way you've always done
and
your job.
take it further. We complain about our police and the way they're also desensitized to what they're supposed to do. They don't care. Instead of protecting you, they will do the complete opposite. Well, not all, but this is what they're now known for. So Kenyans expect policemen to harass you, even when they don't
They don't
always
actually.
harass you. See? But that's it. Now, yes, and that is why someone can talk about 70 billion as only 70 billion.
So there's something do raise that we don't question authority. Have we been socialized that way perhaps through our education system, maybe even going as far back as colonialism?
No, conditioned.
We've been
Conditioned to be
conditioned,
afraid.
conditioned where we don't question what we see as a system or authority, because there's people in matatus even, and the matatus driving really badly. And I remember there was a campaign where you'd have stickers saying, please speak up, because you'd be ostracized by the rest, or, if you said something, they would look at you like funny. And the matatu drivers driving erratically, but you can't say anything. So calling people out is actually stigmatized. Is that part of our culture? We've been conditioned that way. Why? By what system? Colonialism, 844?
No, it isn't colonialism. Colonialism played their part, but remember, in an African setting, traditionally speaking, that is, people didn't outwardly speak against authority. And authority
Was elders in those
yes,
days.
you sort of like kept quiet. If you had dissent, there's a way in which you express it, but you never
other avenues.
Yes, you didn't confront authority directly.
But authority wasn't as involved in your life as it is today, in that, yes, there was a set of rules made up, but we didn't have the sort of setup and advancements and technology and cars and so on.
No,
Authority.
It's a mindset. It's a mindset. Haven't you heard people? Remember once we had some callers who called in and said, you people were speaking very nicely, but now you must do this. Again, it's a Kenyan mindset. If somebody feels that they have knowledge in a particular field, they now become prescriptive. They want everyone to abide by this thing which they consider to be important.
Now, where does this thinking come from? Because you don't see that in other
I'm giving
societies.
you a historical perspective. And then if you bring it into modern times, as you call politics, the then leader is a politician. The then leader is your minister or your president. And if that individual happens to come from your neck of the woods, anyone who says anything that is contrary to what this person speaks is an automatic enemy.
Yeah, or rebel.
No, enemy.
Enemy.
This is an enemy of development. This is an enemy of the people. We've had it in our history. And we've had governments where, beginning from independence, from the first president, you didn't speak. You couldn't oppose any idea that these people had. It amounted to treason.
And it comes to the point where people actually keep quiet. I mean, physically keep. I'm not even talking about outrage or people don't really say much. I mean, physically keep quiet.
You watch,
and
you
if
turn the other way.
because
Or maybe we don't even
If you come
know.
from other and I'll speak from West Africa, for example. You ask a question, somebody will answer you. So now we're even saying to the point that people keep silent. And I don't know if it was the colonial way of doing things
Yes.
that got people to
They
be
played
quiet
they
to
played
the
their
point
part.
where they would not even open their
And
mouth.
the meek
Yes.
shall inherit the world.
To not even open their mouth to give an answer to the question that somebody is asking you. And for me, that actually blew my mind when I came to this part of the world, because you ask a question, people look at you. I don't know if it was kind of like in being polite or because they didn't know the answer or they did not.
Maybe we don't even know what we deserve. Maybe we've never witnessed excellence. We haven't been exposed to it because we're still developing as a country. So we don't know how things should look. Maybe
No,
we
we
need
do.
to
But
be.
guys, the reason why
We
we're
do
talking
know.
about
Well,
people making noise, people
But
make
then people
noise
have
on Twitter,
died.
people make noise
People
on
have
social media.
died.
People
Yeah.
know. They are making noise because they know this is not right.
The people
And they
making
know.
noise on social media are not the masses, and that's short-lived.
Even
in
the
terms
masses
of-
actually also do make
Where are
noise
they making
in
the
their
noise?
in their platforms.
We saw people move on from Kibera. We had a caller the other day, and it was tragic to listen to. I was shocked, but he said he'd rather take his child to a school where the structures are unfit for consumption or unfit for children to be studying in, than take them to a state
government
school that has proper structures because of the quality of education. So are we now putting certain things before lives? Inadvertently, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with his view, but what has conditioned him? What has socialized him? What's informing that opinion or that standpoint? It's
What-
very sad that you're willing to take your child to a school whereby the structures could collapse and they could lose their lives, as opposed to a state school whereby the structures are not particularly derelict, they're fine, but the level of education is not good.
But the very example you give exemplifies the knowledge that people actually have. You see, this man, more or less, you could say he actually conducted a research. If you look at what you're saying, he had analyzed the situation quite well. And he came to the conclusion that he was better off in this school, which seemed like it might collapse, but the education...
He was willing
meaning-
to take his chances.
Yes,
Right.
but the value was the education is better.
Over life.
He was willing to take
So
his
it
chances.
goes-
No, he was taking chances, and he figured chances are it could happen, but chances are it can't.
Yeah, it
but,
hasn't
but,
happened
but
so
since
far.
we're working on chance, what I want is a good education for my child, so I'm going to pursue that first.
So I don't even for a moment assume his name was Steve, who was calling from Kibra
Yes.
that day. Don't for a moment assume that Steve does not get angry. I'm sure if Steve were to call in this morning, he'd tell us he speaks very differently about what's happening in Likoni.
But do they have platforms to channel this anger?
Yes,
Yes,
they
they
do.
Unless
do.
you're on
there
Twitter.
are social
Yes, they do.
platforms.
They do.
So
You
not
meet-
everybody is going to be on Twitter.
No, no, no,
Twitter.
not Twitter. Not Twitter.
There are social
Not
platforms.
Twitter.
Such
You
as?
meet as neighbors, you meet in clubs, you meet wherever you
Yes.
meet as people.
You go to the bar and you have bar talk and you vent.
There's-
And then
or
That's
outside
just
your
one.
house,
how
your
can that be
neighborhood.
organized to bring about effective change?
But when it is organized, it's called dissent.
Unfortunately.
Of which you're allowed to dissent in
Not
this country.
necessarily. My neck of the woods, my people are famous for dissenting, and we manifest this by
Stone throwing.
Stone throwing.
please.
Right.
Be-
Give us a more
No,
sophisticated
be
name for it.
be
By
respectful.
demonstrating.
Of the stone
No,
throwing
the stone
act.
throwing takes place, but you must give it its rightful description.
Expression,
Scientific
hurtling.
stone throwing. It's very scientific. It's
It's not haphazard.
Scientific
no,
rock.
Not chaotic.
No,
Rock
it's not
hurtling.
chaotic. It's something that is
There's
effective.
angles and trajectories and it's all planned.
But look at the labeling that my neck of the woods has received over time. Simply because they speak out.
Exactly. And you know, we were talking
They
about
speak out. The slightest opportunity, speak out.
On some matters.
They speak
And
out
not
when
all
they're not
matters.
happy with the outcome of,
See?
say, elections and so on. They
On
don't
some
necessarily
matters.
speak out.
See?
Because are you isolating
So-
them from Kenyans
so,
at the
no,
moment
it's
with this
you- it's
particular
you who's
incident that we're talking?
isolating it
But why aren't they speaking out
because-
right now?
But let me ask the
If
question.
they speak out, why are they not speaking
But
out right now?
Why
What is the
would you
population
speak
of
out when
Luos?
there's nothing to speak out against?
You see this as nothing to speak out against, the recent tragedies that are completely
It's not you to
preventable?
decide what they should speak out
Now, this is
against.
what I'm saying. They seem to speak out when politically charged by leaders. They
Speaking
don't
out-
speak out of their own
No.
volition. It doesn't
No.
come from within. Because why are they not speaking out now?
Kindly allow me to just say this. There are communities in this country who naturally will voice their opinion. They are known, their voice, others don't. But there's the national position of silence on many issues.
Right.
this is true.
Yes. Now, politics is something that affects everyone's lives. But you think it is so? It is not so. If you look at many of the unions we have in this country, you'll find that there is almost a disproportionate representation of people from that part of the world. Why? They're vocal people. They're a debating society. They talk. That's what they do. They talk. So for them, speaking is not... Silence is what is odd. But speaking out is something that is almost like second nature.
But then, unfortunately, regarded as something of
It is,
dissension by
but
those who would
even
listen
our
to
conversation
them.
this morning, you can see it's being channeled. It's only politics. Politics can't be only. That is what drives this country.
No, it needs to be consistent. I think that's the message you're trying
And
to say.
how is
That
it inconsistent?
We're not
What-
seeing it now.
But
Until
why
the next
must you
election,
see it now?
Until 2022. But
No.
that's what Ndu is saying. We
Let's-
need to see it now. We need to see it every day.
I
When
think we
things
need to-
happen,
No.
when 8 children die,
When-
8 children die, right?
When people speak out, you are talking
the-
about a national outcry.
The community
where-
that's affected, let's actually just narrow it down. The community that has been affected in the Precious Talents crew is just members of the same community that you're talking about, that you're speaking of. Same outrage.
No,
There's
Jerry,
no
nah.
need to be cryptic here. Let's go back to CT's point. You are saying that Luos speak out.
We
and
naturally
that manifests
speak out.
that
We
manifests
naturally
itself in
speak
what
out.
we see or colloquially say stone throwing or
Yes,
some
yes. We
element of
naturally speak
violence.
out.
Now, why aren't you speaking out when it comes to moral issues? Why is it only on political matters that you guys speak out?
And which moral issue should we be speaking out on?
What we're talking about right now. The lives that have been lost
And what
unnecessarily.
makes you
Why are we
think
not
we're
seeing you
not
speak out?
speaking out?
The way
Value
you
for
speak
life.
out with the same vehemence that you speak out when it comes to political issues. We're not seeing that.
You can't, because the political issues we speak of is a wrong that an entire community feels has been meted on them.
I
Let me
think
open
it's
the
because
phone
they're
lines
egged
in the
on and they're
next
charged
hour.
by their leaders.
0719 012 600. That's 0719 012 600. Nduoko is telling us this morning Kenyans don't get angry enough. Do you? 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice it.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Oh yeah, making a come out for house. Ngong Road not day so bad this morning. Uhuru Kenyatta don't return for in house. Traffic on Ngong Road don't wire this morning. Heavy traffic we dey see now for this morning. I beg. If you not come off a house now, make you stay for your house sleep, because Ngong Road not look so nice now. Traffic day Mombasa Road, Siokimau, then they call them Abi. Now they come enter Nyayo Stadium roundabout, nothing they move. I guess this explains why there's no interest on coming out on the road this morning. I beg you now, 0719 be our number, 012 600. Make una call us, tell us what's in the happen for your side. Kiambu Road is a mess coming onto the Thika Superhighway. Jogo Road, then saying they move small, but we no go enter town now. Wayaki Way traffic, they very bad this morning. It be like say we no go enter town anytime before 9 o'clock. If you see something where if you tell us, I beg call us so, because we want to help everybody get out this morning.
Now, wow.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
how's
your day.
Thursday coming along. Good morning, and how are you doing? It's 2 minutes past 7 o'clock. The Situation Room is Kenya's biggest conversation. Our hashtag on Twitter is Situation Room, and our Twitter handle is SpiceFMKE. Please follow us. Also, like our Facebook page, Spice FM, and we are live streaming there. You can watch us as we have this show, Spice FM on Facebook. We're also live streaming on YouTube, Spice FM KE, and on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. Our frequencies around the country, 97.6. We are in Malindi, Nyeri, 90.9. In Eldoret, 96.7. In Nakuru, 96.0. In Kisumu, 102.5. Mombasa, 87.9. Nairobi, 94.4. Spice FM, 0719 012 600. Kenyans are not angry enough. Kenyans need not forget their capacity for outrage.
You know, I actually listened to the Nairobi senator yesterday and what he said, and even as we heard it again this morning, and he really spoke from a point of view that, you know, we need to, you know, what value do we have for the least in the society? I believe if I quote what he said. We also say that government, or, you know, the institutions in which we put our trust in for leadership, are made up of individuals. Can we see, apart from the general population, when we see things going wrong, not open our mouths and say, look, you should not be doing this, or call you out on several different incidents? Why then can we not also see the same thing being replicated at the stage of government? When salaries are being increased for no apparent reason, when we see impunity, when corruption flows through all the sinews of government, why can't we see that same outrage even at the level of government? I understand what the good senator was doing yesterday. I wish he would have even taken it further and said, you know, even at times when we are raising our salaries, even at times when we are continuing, we have the country on its knees, and then we are actually trying to get them in a prostrate position, trying to put the country at a prostrate position by milking the country dry. These are the things that I'm also saying that we cannot continue to be quiet about, from an individual level to a community level to family level, also to a government level. I can see what he was doing yesterday, but at the same time, this was also a unique opportunity again for him to call upon his colleagues and say, you know what, here we are, and we also need to push the envelope when it comes to making sure that we are protecting the people of this country. He also had a unique opportunity, but I think we pulled at our heartstrings and we had some tear-jerking moments, but we could have done more with that position that he held yesterday.
The motion they were discussing in the Senate was actually, you know, talking about empowering these agencies, people that take care of emergencies, you know, like giving them more power, looking at how better to facilitate them. But maybe a motion should have been there to say, let's call out on the officials who are responsible for
They
this.
don't need empowerment. They need resources to carry out their mandate, and those resources are there. They're just stolen. So there's nothing to debate here in terms of legislation and so on. This is a matter of actually making sure they're fully resourced and trained. It's not a matter of, you can't legislate agencies to do what they're supposed to do.
All the
goes
time.
against
But
the-
it's already legislated.
Absolutely.
It's
I
in
don't know
law.
what they're debating in terms of legislation or in Parliament or in Senate.
You see, this mindset we speak of, remember, it's against the backdrop of this value system that we have adopted and which we live by. Remember, same Kenyans. See, we seem to, when we say Kenya, we seem to speak of the person we refer to as downtrodden,
The least in the society.
the person who is in the most need of assistance, and rightfully so. But people who are in decision-making positions assume that they are not affected by what we're discussing. Everyone is affected.
Everyone is affected, absolutely.
Yes, this complete disregard. The senator made a lovely speech, said wonderful things, but does he have a track record of doing anything to change? He's senator. He's supposed to speak. They're supposed to debate. We understand all that, but what is this thing that he has done to show that he actually? Remember, I'm going back to one gentleman by the name of Mike Mbuvi. You see, he's been criticized for having his Sonko rescue team. What do they do? Blah, blah, blah. But fine, it's easy to punch holes in something, but he's doing something.
He sent.
But
If
at
we
the
look
position-
specifically
No,
at this,
see,
okay, I can
He's
understand what
doing
you're saying.
something.
He
The
actually sent
position
his people
Sakaja
down.
is in, the position Sakaja is in, what he's trying to do is create structures and a safety net for everybody, not just sort of stopgap measures for individual incidents. So what he's trying to do is bring Parliament or bring Senate up to standard in terms of the thinking, and then maybe legislate for it so that you have laws and policy that actually cover everybody. You don't want stopgap measures where you bring in one ambulance in case there's this. You want
Njeri.
Look, I like Sakaja. I'm not going to trash him on this show. I think he's done well.
I'm not. You see, this is the thing. Njeri is exemplifying what I was saying earlier on. You can't say something that seems to be contrary to
No,
what
I was
someone
being
is saying
somewhat flippant,
And then
but
without
no, but
it being labeled
I'm not
as
going
though
to let you talk to Kenyans and tell them Sonko is doing well with his approach to management of resources
Let
or
me
to
ask
management
you,
of disasters.
Let me ask
Hold
you,
on, let me
if
finish.
there's- No, I am not going to let you this time because if the so-called structures that people who legislate, if those structures are supposed to be in place but they don't function, so what are you supposed to do? Wait for them to take
No, there's
shape?
there's been
Wait.
leaders previously that haven't been able to do so. So what Sakaja is trying to do
So
is
when one
ensure that
individual
policies are
determines that
created.
they're doing something, then how is it then
No, you
that
can't
this is
have.
nothing?
You cannot have in a country with
Who says
how
you
many-
cannot have?
with
Who
51
decides-
million people?
who decides
because
what
with
individual
51
effort
million
should look
people,
like?
So-
with
so
51
one-
million people, you cannot have a system whereby a governor decides I'll buy 3 ambulances. No, the governor needs to actually put together a policy that creates ambulances for everybody.
We have
you
those
cannot have
policies.
you can't have stopgap
We have
measures.
those policies
so now
and
we
they
actually
don't
have
work.
good leaders
Yes.
such as Sakaja who can come and implement them. That is what he's trying to do, as opposed to wasting resources and energy
Senators don't
on
implement
stopgap
anything.
measures.
They just debate things.
Well, they can push for
So
things
a
to be
governor who
implemented.
can implement, who has the executive power, should actually ensure that there are structures at work, not just dependent
The
on
This is the
structures
very
exist.
mentality.
Of
See, this
course.
is the very mentality that we're actually trying
No.
to fight. This idea that Sonko can come in with a stopgap measure, a band-aid, as opposed to actually put policy, create policy, and implement policy that helps everybody across the board. So as opposed to going and paying somebody's hospital bill, which has a great sense of
He
PR,
doesn't
and
pay
he gets
everybody's
it. No.
hospital
I'm
bill.
giving
There
you an
are
example.
people who probably
what
can't
he needs,
pay.
What he needs.
We have
to do,
Harambes. Should we stop Harambes as well?
What he needs to
Are you
do
saying
is
we should not
ensure
have-
that medical assistance is across the board.
We
It's
have
affordable. It's for
NHIF.
everybody.
We have those
So
things.
he needs to ensure
but they
that
don't
hospitals.
always work.
What is not working about it? That is what Sonko needs to deal with. He
It's
doesn't
not-
need to go around paying individual hospital bills and publicizing it for good
What we
publicity.
shouldn't have
No,
is
that is not
people
what
like
governance
you
and leadership is about.
theorizing about things that should happen, which we know don't happen, and which is why we're having this particular debate. Because
But you
these
see,
things
people like
don't happen.
Sonko, are the very people. They're a hindrance to this moral outrage we speak
No,
of.
they are a
Because we then
product
see
of
no,
the ineffectual management of the
no,
country.
No,
Because people like that wouldn't thrive if the government was doing what they're supposed to do.
We're
Now,
think
if we let these things actually seep over, we would have the moral outrage that we need in order to bring about
we were
effective
talking
change.
about
So-
But if
gangs
we have
the other
somebody
day.
who's
How
putting a
do gangs
band-aid
come into
constantly,
being?
There are different organs. So there is the people, right?
Yes.
Which Ndu is actually raising the point about today. The people. There are legislators who come up with policies and laws,
who
right?
are people as well, and
Who
that's
are people as
and
well.
stopgap measures
and
that
they
have no
review-
real effect.
And they review the existing policies and they say, okay, so why is its policy not working? Why is it not being implemented? So let's review it. Let's create structures that help it to get implemented better. And then there are others that are supposed to implement the executive, right?
I think
And the executive has a role to ensure that what is there can work and what cannot work. If you can create a structure privately that can work, then implement that structure, let it work
No,
for the
you-
public.
you
but we
can't
must
have
understand that
personalized
structures. But we must
services.
understand that structures are mobilized or move forward
Jerry,
by
you are
people.
over-prescriptive.
No, you
By
cannot have
people.
personalized
You are
services. You need
over-prescriptive.
institutionalized services. In a country that is democratic,
even in
where there's
countries that
taxpayers,
are
you can't have
developed
this.
And they have structures which work. You have people they call philanthropists. That's individual help, is it not?
The people who move.
And it supports an existing
Sonko's
structure,
job is
does
not
it
to be a philanthropist.
These
That is to
institutions-
win him
these
the popularity
You must
vote.
not allow your disregard
Sonko's job,
for an individual or your regard for an
Sonko's
individual.
Sonko's
to-
approach to solutions is completely wrong. It's
an
individualized, it's
expression of anger,
personalized.
maybe.
No. It actually harms this thing we call moral outrage
No.
that can lead to change. It
No.
pacifies us.
You
That's
are the
what
one
it does,
who
and we don't
seems
need
to have the view
pacification.
that
No.
your perspective of life is the correct one.
Of course it is. I wouldn't have
and
the view
that
otherwise.
and that unless people subscribe to this thing that you consider proper, then it doesn't work. There are individuals who wouldn't thrive in any society if a situation that makes them thrive didn't exist. It's not really complicated. These so-called developed nations, completely and thoroughly developed, you still have why do I refer to the philanthropists? People who come out to assist. Why are they assisting? It's individual effort. They wouldn't assist if the need didn't arise.
These are not elected leaders that have a duty to provide these services or to ensure these services are provided for their people, to agitate for these services. When Sonko starts these stopgap measures, these
He
I don't even know what to call them.
start
When he implements them, he's actually negating from the fact that he should be doing a lot more to ensure that these services reach everybody, not just the individuals that he goes and pays hospital bills for and then has that
Do you
publicized.
know
That
how
is not
many
that is not
informals-
governance
I
in
think
a
What's
democracy.
happening in the studio this morning is an expression of anger, is an expression of issues. This is how Kenyans should get.
This
All of
isn't-
us should
this
get
isn't
like this.
anger. This
And
is
this is what we're
dissent and
saying.
disagreement.
I think
It's
what,
not anger.
0719-012-600. I'm opening up the phone lines, and also you can comment on our Facebook page because we are live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, or through Twitter. Our hashtag is Situation Room. Ndu, recap for us the issue you raised this morning.
Well, just before I go to the recap, here we are with, again, looking at what the Nairobi senator said yesterday. Who was he speaking to? He was speaking to his colleagues on the floor of the Senate. And it was very clear. I mean, I said we had some tear jerk. We had some, heartstrings pulling when he spoke about this. Again, he had a unique opportunity to back away from this kind of, the government must do something. Serikali's idea. He, in a position whereby they could go forth and legislate, could actually have outrage on the floor. The same kind of spirit of outrage we see when other things are being done, when salaries are being increased, when corruption is entering into the very fabric of our government, when it has found its way to stay. And I think that he had a unique opportunity to turn the conversation around, on that level, where we are also saying, turn the conversation around on a people level. If I see you doing something that you should not do, which has definitely been prescribed by the laws that govern a community, I should be able to open my mouth and speak up. But because because we don't speak up in the place before it becomes a tragedy, we don't have the right then to speak up when the tragedy has happened.
But sometimes it's because we're pacified by acts that Sonko.
Or we are passive.
No, we're
Or we are
pacified.
passive
We're passive as
by
well.
what
but
we see. And
we're
we say, we
pacified.
allow it to go on. We see, something as basic as throwing trash out the window. Something as basic as, seeing somebody just like you mentioned, Jerry, seeing somebody driving a matatu in a way in which he should not be doing. Overloading, which is against the law. And we keep quiet, okay, because I'm going to get to my spot and then I'm going to get off. And it really doesn't bother me until it bothers you. So here we are and we're saying, I saw that ferry being overloaded. I was standing right there. It shouldn't have been. And we don't speak out because, okay, what's going to be done? After all, it's just a few hundred meters. I'm going to get to where I need to go. We don't take the measures while the action is happening. And when the tragedy happens, that's when we speak up. What have we done? What do we do? We don't have to wait until tragedy happens for us. And I keep saying, we need to have platforms upon which lobbying can be well activated in this country and be vibrant and alive, because then we get to the point where tragedy happens, and then that is when we want to speak, and then we do it for 2 days and then we're done.
We move
it
on,
cannot
absolutely.
be.
But
it
you see,
cannot be.
you see, what you're saying is absolutely true. Ndu. You see, this country is overlaid by government apologists who will find every reason to justify and explain away government ineptitude. Structures exist, agencies exist, budgeting exists. All these things that we're talking about, they exist in this country. They actually exist. Now, we even know that whatever needs to be done isn't done. We know. It's not that we don't know.
And
we
the
do
people
know.
who are supposed to be doing them are aware that they are the ones
We
who are
know.
supposed to be doing them and are
Yes,
not doing them.
We do know. Why is it that we constantly have a situation where people are always trying to raise money for a rambe, for either child who didn't go to school, needs to go to school, somebody who is sick? Not take them out of the country, just locally. Why? Because the education we're told is free isn't free. Otherwise, if it was free, what would you need to raise money for? Yes. Medical care, which is supposed to be free, isn't. And all these things aren't what they're supposed to be. Now, the choice is outrage. With what outcome in mind?
But I think this is the thing. It's not outrage, and so we say we're going to have outrage for the next 21 days and then we stop. It must be a constant,
Must be constant outrage.
atmosphere.
So this
It must be
outrage,
constant.
how
and it doesn't have
how
to be,
must this outrage?
It doesn't have to be.
How should it be packaged?
It
How should
doesn't
it be
have to be.
manifested?
It doesn't have to be animated, throwing up
No.
of the arms time and time
I'm
again.
asking,
But I'm saying the
how-
conversations need
How
to.
would it be manifested so that it brings about the desired result?
We need to, this is what I'm saying, in incidences where we see things are going wrong, we are in these situations every day. Whether you board a bus, whether you're driving a vehicle, whether you are in a particular office, whether you go to visit a government office, whatever you do, the processes which you go through every day. And this calls upon the people at an individual level. Collectively, this attitude has to change. And this
Personal
is what I'm saying.
responsibility.
Everybody has to take personal responsibility, so that I call you out when I see that you are not doing things in the way in which I know you're supposed to be doing them. Guess what? When something actually happens, I have then every right to say, look, this should have been done at this point and it was not being done. And it has to be continuous. We don't start and then stop. We don't get angry and say, oh, well, okay, they found the bodies and then they were buried. Thank you. And then we move on. It cannot be. We have to be in a continuous state of asking why, asking questions at a personal, individual level, and also to the point whereby we call even our leaders out. But because we don't call each other out on an individual level, what right then do we have to even go onto the leadership level and ask what it is that you are, what is it that you're doing with the position that we, by my vote, I gave you to do? We can't do that. We can't ask those questions because we don't ask them for the people that we see here every day. We don't. But if we did, then we will be able to elevate to the next.
Responsibility starts with you. So everybody has a personal responsibility on what actually is happening in the country. We can't just be saying every day that Secretary Kali should have done this and then we move on after every 2 days. Well, who is it that should make sure that the government is doing what it should be doing? Who is it that should make sure that everybody is doing what they should be doing? 18 minutes past 7 o'clock. Good morning. This is the Situation Room.
How well do you know your country? Given a chance, where would you go? Not so many places, huh? Would you even know how to get there? Yes? No? Maybe? I don't know. Well, oh ye gallivanters and tourists alike, here is your chance to not only know, but also visit amazing destinations in Kenya with complete recommendations, guides, and tips on accommodation spots, wellness stops, and food joints all over Kenya. How you ask? Courtesy of the biggest locally targeted tours and travel magazine, Travelog. Travelog is your monthly pull-out magazine in the Standard newspaper every first Thursday of the month. With Travelog, enjoy the beauty of life that Kenya has to offer. Visit exotic and hidden destinations, be part of amazing conservation campaigns and projects as you simply enjoy Kenya. It's our way of putting Kenya on the map. Grab your copy and be aboard the fun wagon as you improve the quality of your local travel experiences. Travelog, Jione Kenya.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's go to the phone lines already directly. Good morning, Eunice.
Morning. My name is Eunice,
Yes.
and I'm calling from Mombasa.
Okay.
It is my first time I'm calling at Spice FM, so I really don't know your names, but I tend to lean toward the woman who's talking about it is our responsibility. We need to call on the leaders and the rest.
The woman is
let's-
Ndu. Yes.
Yes, let's talk about the accident. The one happens in Ferry. Can you imagine in this century, 21st century, someone is dying in a ferry where 1,000 of people are watching her die, and we have Kenya Navy just behind there. We have Kenya Ferry. We have Kenya Port Authority just a stone throw away from where she was. And she died like that. And until now, it's almost 5 days and her body has not been retrieved. And unajua nini, the worst part is that these leaders wenye tumewaelect huko, hakuna mwenye aliongea mpaka watu wakakuwa na outrage ile, how is it this is happening? How is this is happening? Ni sawa kwamba unasema the responsibility has to start with us wananchi.
Absolutely.
But majority of the people we put in power to make decisions for us tend to forget what tumewatuma wafanye huko. Because once I voted, I don't have the power to allocate budget. I don't have the power to ensure kwamba the people that have sent me to parliament are well catered for, right? It is my duty as a leader to ensure that. But when it comes to their own benefits, ujiongeze allowances, utaka kwenda trips abroad, they will gang up and do something and ensure it happens. And most of the times they tend to forget kwamba sisi wananchi local, the basic wananchi, ndio tuliwavotia wakaenda huko. They tend to think kwamba wako immune to the fact that they are politicians.
So, Eunice, what do you do
Another
about that?
I'm just
you
saying,
say
we
you
just-
agree that we need to, the responsibility starts with us in terms of expressing outrage. How do we express outrage to ensure that we put those leaders
by
in check?
voting out those people who do not work next election. Yeah, if you're not doing anything, next time we just cast you out. We don't repeat. Let's say, example, if someone is not working in your company and you're paying them, will you continue keeping that person?
No.
But Kenyans, we elect the same person for 26 years,
Why?
and that person is not doing
Why?
anything.
Why do we do this, Eunice?
That's what I'm saying. We need to change our mind. We need to, revolutionary, like the one from Egypt, and just cast everyone out and tell these people, if you're not going to do this for us, we're not going to elect them. But na unajua what part ni nini? Kenyans wana tabia mbaya. And me, I'm example. Ni kwamba when these people do these things, they came back to us in the tag name of our tribe is being attacked.
Then you give them again.
Our tribe is being attacked. Na unashanga huyo mtu akiiba hizi pesa akikula, alikula na wewe ama alikula na girlfriend yake, bibi yake na rafiki yake kadhaa. Wewe ukuweko, lakini sasa inakuja inafika ile our tribe. Sijui hiyo tribe yangu imenisaidia nini.
Kwa hivyo wewe kama voter unadanganywa very easily. Is that what you're saying?
Every time haya mkasa ikitokezea watu wanasema Wakenya ni wale waleo, atapiga makelele siku 2-3 itakufa itaisha, we will move on.
Do you think there's voters that can't be cheated and would know how to vote correctly?
Majority they get cheated.
Majority.
Utaambia mtu kabisa huyu mtu hafai, this person is no good, do not vote for it. But jioni atakuja na pesa, hata huyo mtu atabadilisha mawazo yake 2 minutes before election aende kuvote.
And what if what if we were to take away their right to vote, those who don't understand how it works and keep making the wrong decisions?
Sasa tutaanza kusema democracy, we fight for democracy.
Lakini wewe in your heart, can you see how this would work? Whereby we only let people who understand governance, economy, development and so on, where we let them vote.
But now watakuwa bribed na hao politicians tena.
Yeah, everybody can be bribed.
Unaona, they can also be, I'm just saying kwamba we need that drive yenye itafanya Kenyans yani to change their mindset, yani ile kama kuoshwa akili ikuwe clear, ditolewe ile madogo dhani yote yako kwa kichwa, and then
the tribalism kila kitu
tuangalie hapa, tuangalie, there is no tribe, because I'm telling you, hakuna mtu mwenye ako power your tribe atakusaidia. Not even in terms of job ama nini ama hakuna pale mahali atakusaidia. I have seen it. I know mimi personally, I can tell you, I know someone who is my tribe and is somewhere where he can help me, but tena natumia hiyo tribe, I can't help you because unajua nikikusaidia watu watasema nimesaidia watu wangu wa tribe.
It can work against you actually, yeah.
Eunice, thank you very much for calling.
Thank you, Eunice. Stay angry,
Eunice.
please.
Yes, continue.
Thank you. Okay.
Let's go over to Ngong. Oscar, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. Are you as angry as Eunice is?
Good morning, Oscar.
Morning. I'm not as angry as she is, though I think I feel for her. My comment is, I've listened to the discussion, and first and foremost, I want to say hi to a gentleman called Mugabe. I guess he was my teacher at some point, yeah.
Hujambo
I'm
ndugu.
not, now I've picked your voice. The same way you used to say Ujambo is the same way you're doing it. Thank you, Mwalimu.
Asante baba.
Karibu sana. Now, and as eloquent as he's ever been. Yeah. Now, I listened to this talk, and I look back to the disaster, for instance, the one that happened in Bahamas. And that's where I pick it, because when we look at the way the governor Sonko is doing this, I totally agree with, I think the lady called Jerry, that we can't have a haphazard way of dealing with disasters. There must be a structure. And this is not bestowed upon individuals. It's based upon offices and institutions. So there must be one provision of proper resources, training in all aspects of resource. It has to be done. And it has to be like deliberate, not wait for incident. Because at the point when things have happened, you look at the way the MD for Kenya Ferry is giving his views, and first and foremost, he's a human being. Maybe he feels for them, but on the one hand, he has to express the view of the
institution.
Organization, yes, such that it doesn't look like they are failing. And on the other hand, maybe he feels for that family. He, as a person, he feels they should have done better.
Oscar.
And being an employee of the state, then he also has to be careful to say, we have not been funded.
Oscar, how about he takes personal if he feels that the
Take
institution, if they feel that
responsibility.
institution does not have the capacity to do this,
Yeah,
and he
but
feels
you
for
and I-
them,
you-
how about he just
you
comes
and
out and
I-
says, you know what, actually
You
this
and I know
institution does
very
not.
well. You and I know very well that in this society that we live in, people hardly take responsibility, even to the point that someone would stand up and say, I will not resign.
And
Which is
that
why I
is
don't
what
excuse
we
him.
are saying, that we need to
That's
get
a
to the
shame.
point, and that is what we are saying, that we need to get to the point whereby we are not allowing such behavior to continue. That we say that nobody will take responsibility for what they've been given to do. You're not taking responsibility. However, you have been given that responsibility by virtue of the fact that you hold that position. And we are saying that we should not allow that to continue. And we are not having the
Now-
conversations. We are not raising the issues. We've become comfortable with the fact that people don't take responsibility, and we say, okay, yeah, it's okay, something will happen, they won't take responsibility, and okay, by us not speaking, do you know what we're saying? We are saying that we're okay with it.
We endorse it.
Exactly.
Thank you. But let me tell you, on the point of speaking out, I have two references. Look at the incidences that had been happening in Hong Kong. The people who were out there, I think they call it the umbrella movement, right? And look at the yellow vest. Those demonstrations or protests were not being done by people who ordinarily, like in our society, we would call them the stone throwing people. These are people who are middle class. You who are seated there and making this conversation, coming out on the streets, ask yourself, when was the last time you, even if there is any, I want to believe there could be any, at least with all your anger and expression, there must be something that pricked you and you say, for this one, I will go to the street. When was the last time you ever went to the street to express dissatisfaction together with the stone-throwing people, such that you can tell them, listen, guys, we are not going to throw stones, but we will do this much peacefully, express ourselves. Or all we do is meet in media houses, give our opinions, express our sentiments, yet we expect other people to go out. This society needs people. Is exactly middle class. go out and express their anger. See what happened in Sudan. The people who led the revolution to remove, what do you call him? Bashir.
Yeah.
Middle class.
One of low-class people.
And that's why we're saying the conversations need to happen, so that you know, it would be interesting to note that you do have people who are teetering on whether to go out or not, and they're not sure how to make that decision in their mind. But when we continue to have these conversations and we continue to put these sentiments out there, we actually tip people in that direction. And that's why I'm saying we cannot keep quiet, because you have very many people who would be thinking in that direction, and they need something to tip them over.
Oscar, thank you very much for calling. I want to bring in Steve as well, who is also holding on the line. You'd stay on if you want to hear what Steve is saying. Steve, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Good, thanks. This is Steve from Kibra. we spoke about him. He had called 2 days ago.
All right.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Nilikuwa nataka kuchangia hivi. You see, about risk ni ile kitu iko na positive ama negative implications, kitu kama hiyo, si ndio? Na unaona hapa Kenya kwetu, every region iko na vile inakuwa na risk zake. Let's say like Central, tulikuwa tunaona walevi wanakunywa pombe, wanakufa, mpaka president akaingia katikati. Akaongea at least ikapunguzwa, but sasa bado tuna mrudivu wanakunywa tu pombe. Ni Kisumu tunaonga na politics, watu wanaingia politics, wanapigwa risasi. Na inaenda tu hivyo, tunawamezoea. Hata Kibira hapa kwetu nyumba zinaanguka kila siku, zinachomeka na watoto ndani, but hata si watu stuki, ni watu nje wanastuka. In fact, huku kwetu nyumba isipochomeka hata let's say like a month, hata unaomba tu Mungu amesaidia sana, lakini hata ukiamuka jioni uko job unasikia mali fulani panaungua. Hiyo ni normal kwetu. Sasa sijui hata kama wa cost hii ya cost nayo ilikuwa ni chungu kwangu. Vile niliona hiyo video mama akizama kwenye maji. But honestly vile nilikuwa nimwambia mimi ni fundi, na saa zingine watu wanaenda kwa scaffolding, rafiki yako anaweza anguka kutoka juu aende chini, but you see utashout ati mtu ameanguka. Ukishout kuna vile unaweza vutu hata kazi. So watu nasema besheni imeanguka. Because na tunakufa normal, tunakufa. Honestly pia tunakataa ku accept ya kwamba death ni normal in any circumstances. Death lazima itakuja. But zingine pia kama maji, unajua ndio maji samaki iko ndani. Hata mimi napenda samaki, but hata mimi naogopa hapo. Na kwa huyo mama hata kwa familia yao naonea huruma sana, but honestly gava pia haiwezi tusaidia ile kabisa. But ni sisi tu unafaa tu kuona kama iko ni mali risk, uachane nayo. Kama kuna kitu mzuri unaenda kupata, unawacha. But risk pia ni ile kitu kama unaenda kupata kitu mzuri ama mbaya kutoka hapo. Yote inaweza kuja na any answer. Sasa labda huyo mama alikuwa na haraka, akawa anapanda end the other hiyo ng'ombe nyingine.
Inaonekana
mbaya kazama.
Ni kama umezoea hizi vitu mpaka umekuwa desensitized in that ni kama umekuwa numb. When they don't happen you're even surprised.
Yeah, honestly, unajua kulingana na mimi, unajua mimi ni fundi na tunapanda vitu risk. Unaona zile ziko risky. Alafu unajua pia sisi anyway, unajua pia ili wajue amount yako ya risk kwa mwili yako, ni mate huwa inapimwa. Unafaa upimwe mate, wajue kama which level of risk unaweza take. Hata njeri think unafaa uende, utapimwa, watajua, watakwambia wewe hii risk hauwezi chukua, wewe unaweza fanya.
Unapimwa mate, kuna enzyme kwa mate inakwambia how risk averse you are ama.
Yeah, iko. Utapimwa.
Hiyo sijasikia mbeleni. Lakini Stephen, iko level where a standard we should expect at the very least. We understand accidents can happen, but when they're completely avoidable, there's government in place. We pay taxes to the government to ensure that these things don't happen, and it becomes very sad. And it's very sad when you accept status quo because you feel you can't change it, and then it becomes normalized to you, whereby even when there's no fire you're surprised. It's a sad state of affairs, but we shouldn't accept it. Si lazima uitikie hivi ndio itakuwa.
But tunaona zile mitigation tunataka, kama sasa recently venye ilizidi wakatufungulia barabara, at least kama zimamoto inakuja, kama inaungua zimamoto inakuja inaingia vizuri. Kuna mafundisho zile tunafundishwa hata kule kazini. Usia wa boss wanatuletea every time after 3 months tunakumbushwa about safety. So you see even at the ferry huko Mombasa pia wananchi huko wanafaa kufanywa, waambie kitu ni hatari. Maana hata hiyo ferry yenyewe imekuwa banned.
She wasn't, you know, there's a ramp. There was a ramp that was not put up It was the failure of the Kenya Ferry Services. When you
But
drive
the
on, it's not your
specific
job to know what you're
terms-
supposed to do. You're supposed to be guided, and there's a ramp that's supposed to be put up. It was not put up. This is why the car rolled over. It wasn't because alikuwa na haraka or anything like that. You've got to be educated on what standards to expect, and this is what I was talking about earlier. The fact that maybe we haven't been exposed to excellence, or we don't know what standards we deserve as Kenyans. When people start accepting that it is the norm to suffer or to have these tragedies on a regular basis, completely preventable tragedies, that is what lowers the value of human life
And we
in
have a
society.
problem.
Absolutely.
Steve, thank you very much for your call this morning.
But you see, Nani Rico, you see even hiyo feri yenyewe imekuwa banned. Hiyo feri yenyewe hata ifai kuwa inatembea na gava inajua. So gava itajuje maisha yetu kama feri yenyewe imeshakuwa out of order, inatembea kila saa, inakuwa fixed, inatengenezwa, inafanywa overhaul. Na gava inajua tu, inaweka wananchi ndani.
And that's what we are saying. We have
Lakini-
people who are continuing to run or mechanize these institutions or mechanize these operations, and they are still allowing this to happen. What we are saying is that it's something completely unavoidable, completely avoidable that happened. It was avoidable, and we still allowed it to happen. And there are individuals who are sitting at those operations, and that's what we are saying.
That's the conversation we're having this morning. Steve, thank you very much for calling. We hope you keep calling on our show every day.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Rico.
Well, this is the situation. Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 25 minutes to 8 o'clock.
.0 Spice FM, Nakuru.
How well do you know your country? Given a chance, where would you go? Not so many places, huh? Would you even know how to get there? Yes? No? Maybe? I don't know. Well, oh ye gallivanters and tourists alike, here is your chance to not only know, but also visit amazing destinations in Kenya with complete recommendations, guides, and tips on accommodation spots, wellness stops, and food joints all over Kenya. How, you ask? Courtesy of the biggest locally targeted tours and travel magazine, Travelog. Travelog is your monthly pull-out magazine in the Standard newspaper every first Thursday of the month. With Travelog, enjoy the beauty of life that Kenya has to offer. Visit exotic and hidden destinations, be part of amazing conservation campaigns and projects as you simply enjoy Kenya. It's our way of putting Kenya on the map. Grab your copy and be aboard the fun wagon as you improve the quality of your local travel experiences. Travelog, Jione Kenya. Tired of living your same old life? Need to spice it up and add some flavor? Well, we can help you go from living to living it up. East Africa, are you ready to be a part of the most vibrant entertainment scene with the best, freshest music, travel tips and destinations, fashion, tech and health trends, as well as your favorite celebrities' lifestyles? Introducing your favorite entertainment magazine, Pulsar, the ultimate all-in-one guide that will give you more meaning to life. Catch up with your celebrity writers and contributors to stay up to date with what's happening around you, where and how you can be a part of all that. The lifestyle guide that has been missing in your life. Pulsar. Live it up. Have you subscribed to the Standard Digital e-paper yet? You better, because we have really great news for you. Get tailor-made packages for daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly subscriptions at discounted prices that are out of this world. Now that's great news. It's the all-inclusive and convenient news platform that can be accessed in one subscription plan. So, simply download the Standard Digital e-paper app from Google Play Store or Apple Store, or visit newsstand.standardmedia.co.ke and subscribe now. Standard Digital e-paper.
Just a top up away. Just how you like it.
Reckless Matatu drivers being arrested along Mombasa Road. Finally, all right. So that's causing some traffic right there at Airport Junction this morning. Okay, what else do we have here? Thika Road, getting towards the Pangani underpass. There's traffic bumper to bumper. Interestingly enough, for Thursday morning, nothing else is really happening. Everything is, flowing smoothly from Wayaki Way to Langata Road to Ngong Road, coming towards the CBD. Let's see if some action or drama will happen by the time it gets to 8 o'clock. Give us a call or send us a message. If there's something that you see that we should know about, we'll definitely highlight it. 0719 012 600.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
And it's 20 minutes to 8 o'clock. Good morning, and how are you doing? This is the Situation Room. My name is Eric Latif. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga. We've been discussing the disasters that have happened, and, Ndu has been saying we are not as angry as we should be. Maybe we are not just venting enough anger. We get angry for a day, and then we move on. We complain on Twitter, on social media, on our places of worship and places of socialization where we meet, we talk, we get angry, and that's it. We move on and say somebody else should do something. Is it the job of other government institutions to actually take up all responsibility? Is it only their job? And this is what also C.T. Muga wants to talk about.
Well, if it isn't their job, then whose job is it? Even the very, very notion and concept of a job means defined duties that are assigned to a particular individual. And then there are expected outcomes. Now, we have a situation where, by and large, anyone who represents the government, either as a civil servant or as a politician, believe it or not, politicians are considered part of the government, they seem to feel that none of this is their domain. They are under no obligation whatsoever to actually fulfill or to ensure that the mandate that they have before them is actually fulfilled. But that's not what I want to look at this morning. I want to look at what it is that the government does and does well, and unfortunately there's the unfortunate, could do better. I want to look at the enforcement agencies that we have in Kenya. You would be amazed at just how many we do have. When we talk enforcement, the first thing people think about is police. And you think of either the intelligence services, you think of KDF, you think of the GSU, you think of the administration police. That's what people think of. But what is interesting is that this country has really very many enforcement agencies. One agency that often, very, very, very often is in the news is NEMA, the Environmental Enforcement Agency. They come to the fore every so often, either because some building didn't meet some environmental standards, or someone was encroaching on some river frontage that they're not supposed to encroach on. And then there's recently this particular government set up something called NTSA. Now, they were supposed to look into matters of transportation. Now, you may think, why that? Well, given that the accidents on our road at sometimes were the leading cause of death in this particular country, you then do realize that perhaps the movement of vehicles on our roads need to be managed, and there needs to be a group of people who are set aside specifically for ensuring that these particular needs are met. When you look at the formation of these agencies, the one thing that comes to the fore is that the government, and I'm saying the government does have the capacity and the ability to think of and to formulate standards and structures that can bring about good governance. Just the thinking of it and the enacting of it, it shows that they can. And we see the little, and it's little, that is done and the good that it produces. But it begs the question, how much more would we be able to achieve if we actually set out to attain the good that is or can be actually achieved, and the capacity that the government has to do good? I want to look at the good that the government has done this morning. Yes, I know. People who listened on have probably created that I'm always bashing the government. It isn't government bashing. It is fact speaking about the government. Again, it's the mindset of Kenyans. If you say something that seems to even be slightly, in the slightest critical of the government, then you're government bashing.
You're in your opposition.
Not only opposition, you're a reprobate. There's something fundamentally wrong with you, and you should be consigned to some dark place somewhere where you can be taught manners on how to behave and how to look at the government properly.
So there are institutions that have been set aside, created, right,
Yes.
by government and their structures.
Yes.
You mentioned NEMA, you mentioned the National Transport Safety Authority,
Yes.
you mentioned others.
Yes.
So why don't they perform as well as they should?
Actually,
So yes, the government has done good, yes, and you keep telling us when the government does good, that's what it's supposed to have done anyway.
Yes.
What's the news there?
Yes. The news is acknowledgement. I was corrected. I was told this yesterday. Acknowledgement. Just acknowledge. We're not saying that you're heaping praise on them. You're just acknowledging this is good.
It's
just
there.
like you acknowledge this isn't good.
Okay.
And remember, I'm not saying bad today. I'm saying not good. Okay. The thing that I know doesn't perhaps seem obvious, but the situation that we're in that we consider bad could be infinitely worse. And it isn't that because the government actually does do something. But the bit that doesn't get done, which we keep blaming the government, and Ndu suggested it and even talked about it, it's our participation. It is not possible for a policeman to receive a bribe if they're not given a bribe. It is not possible for me to bribe an official in the lands ministry to do me a favor if I do not give it. It is not possible for me to bribe an immigration officer. We blame the government and we blame officials for receiving bribes, but we forget that we give it. We participate. The malaise that we speak of, the government is actually not to blame if you're looking at the entity that is called government, the executive structure that's supposed to run the country. No. These people who work within government, not only are they Kenyan citizens, they are also parents. They are also sufferers. They everything that every other Kenyan experiences, to some degree, they also do. But we blame them because we feel they should do this, and we forget that there is something that someone who is in government should also do. Now, I have been criticized again when I have given prominence to some of the things that the governor of Nairobi does. But I have to contextualize this. There are certain things that don't happen in a vacuum. If certain things were in place, people like the governor of Nairobi perhaps would not need to do the things they do.
But he's now been tasked with putting those things in place. So it's a paradox, really, that he's not putting them in place and he's doing what he has to do because they're not in place. He has to do this institutionally. It has to be a proper project. It can't be these stopgap measures where you come and put a Band-Aid on a wound and continue.
You are aware that you're government bashing, Jerry?
I'm governor bashing, not government bashing.
Oh, no.
It's Sonko's approach to leadership that I am attacking. It's not government per se, although he is in government. It's an individual in government, and there's no harm in criticizing the government if it's a constructive criticism, and we can come up with solutions.
Like which ones?
With regards to constructive criticism, I've criticized them for their lack of communication on certain issues, and we can come up with solutions for that. They can be more proactive in ensuring that people know what they're doing or people know what their agendas are. I've criticized them for their failure to focus on the social pillar, on us as a country. Of course, we've been unified with a handshake, but there's a lot more that could be done in terms of maybe moral regeneration programs and so on. I've criticized housing existing in the Big Four agenda. I don't think homelessness is an issue in Kenya, and if it is, there's an element of it in Nairobi, but what's more pressing is the fact that we can't buy homes, so they need to look at more the fiscal policies and the financial sort of institutions in terms of mortgages. So I do criticize them and I do come up with solutions. I don't bash them per se. I also praise them where need be. I think they've done very well in terms of devolution. I think there's been great infrastructure development and we're doing well. So yes, I'm a balanced individual, CT. Contrary to your suspicions.
No, I think your worldview of yourself is healthy.
Absolutely. If you don't blow your own horns, who will? Especially in a patriarchy like Kenya, you have to remind people that you're not just a woman.
And you're not just existing at the whims of, or you're at the behest of the vagaries that we sometimes refer to as life.
So, City, you're saying that the government has has played its part.
Actually.
But we don't play our part.
No, I'm saying we don't. We don't. Our part, we have abrogated our part to the government.
What is our part? What is this role the citizen we need to play? Other than cooperating with the government, i.e. ensuring we uphold the law.
It's called holding the government, holding them to account, making them accountable. That is our bit.
Do we have the capacity to play our part?
Oh, yes, we do. The very thing that you were criticizing earlier on about the politicizing, the way Luos like vocalizing loudly politics, that's pushback. That is pushback. It may be in a political arena, but it's pushback. Now, if I have seen.
When
I
I
remember
say the capacity, the cognitive capacity, not the physical capacity, in terms of
No,
are we
the-
able
the-
to
the phy-
decipher
the
and
physical
understand
is often a
complex.
manifestation of the cognitive, really. It's how
complex would
Because
failure
I
by
think
government
our
be
duty,
anyway?
our duty, it can be complex in that it's in many levels. It's not just through corruption; it's the inability to carry out and implement certain policies and so on. But what I'm suggesting, and of course what I'm alluding to, of course, is going to be weighted voting. I'm asking, do we understand government well enough for us to play a role in government?
Do
Because
people who
our
don't work
only
in
role
government
at the
understand
moment,
government well enough?
no, our only role at the moment is voting. We've been asked to participate. That in and of itself can be a complex process, and we don't have the civic education. So when people
No,
are voting,
our
that's
only
when we
role is
can
not
make
just in
changes.
voting.
I
Civil
don't-
societies
What is our
exist.
role?
Civil societies are actually
I'm
made
talking
up.
as just the general public, as
Civil
the
soci-
electorate.
Civil societies are
part- okay.
Yes, are part of us. You know, we form CBOs.
There's media as well,
NGOs,
but I'm
there's
talking
media.
as an individual. What is your role in government? Because CT is saying we're not playing our part.
No, we are not.
What is our part in governance other than voting and trying to participate, which can be made quite difficult? There's barriers to participation in terms of literacy, i.e., literacy in governance, understanding, also information, and government doesn't make it as easy to participate as we perceive. We've had a caller call in and say, I didn't know the participation was going on. We've had somebody from Nakuru call in and say government needs to encourage people to participate. So maybe we need to change the way in which we participate, or this participation as stipulated by the Constitution.
Therein lies the fallacy. Why must the government be the one responsible for ensuring you participate?
The clarion call must come from us. If we truly want to be participatory in the way in which this country is run, and if it bothers us enough, we will actually rise up and do something about it. We have seen
But we
many,
must be
we have seen
empowered.
many, we have seen
No,
many,
we
no,
can't
no,
be
no,
disempowered.
no, no.
Hold on,
Listen,
we've
I'm
seen
all
many,
for the
hold on,
government,
we've
but I'm
seen
not
many
going to shoulder the burden
hold
of
on.
running the
We've
country.
seen
No,
many,
I
no,
pay
no, no,
my
no, no, no.
taxes.
We've
Your
seen
duty
many
as an
No.
individual
we have
is to
seen
pay your taxes,
many
perhaps to
situations.
vote
So
and to
one at a time.
participate.
One at a time.
Okay.
All right,
we
no.
pay our taxes. That is enough.
No, no.
We
We've
comply
seen-
with
no,
the
no,
law.
no.
No, wait,
No.
wait. Let me
No, no,
finish.
no.
Let me finish
No.
and tell you what we do. We don't have to add and shoulder the burden of running the government. We're not paid to
It
govern
isn't
this country.
shouldering.
Hold on. We're not paid
It's
to govern this country.
participating.
We pay people. Participation, yes. Paying taxes, yes. Complying with the law. That is our only duty. I don't know what else you want to suggest citizenry
We
can
keep saying
do.
that we have
You're saying
hired. We
bosses
keep saying
have
that
no supervisory
essentially.
role.
Hold on. We've said that essentially we've hired these people to be in government, right? We have put them there by our vote. We pay them with our taxes. We have every right and every responsibility to make sure that along the line they are doing their job. It happens in any place
So
where
you
you
want
have
us
somebody
to,
who
you
does
want
a
us
job.
to, you want
There
us
are-
to act
there
as an
are
oversight
deliverables-
body as
there
well.
are deliverables
Whilst we're
that-
trying to earn money and live
There
our
are
lives, an
deliverables
oversight
that
body
must be presented by the
Unless,
government.
of course,
there
you want
are
to
deliverables.
this vicious cycle of complaining
No, hold
to
on.
continue.
We have to
Hold
be
on.
involved. We
You
can't-
have to do
okay,
something.
the,
Jerry.
the-
We have to
the
be
way to be
involved.
involved is
We
maybe
can't
to be
just sit there.
constructive about our criticism and
Because
make sure
what-
we
No.
have solutions.
Criticism
So maybe
doesn't
the
cut it.
discourse.
Essentially,
But
what
how
you're
else
saying,
can
essentially
we
what you're
do
saying,
anything?
essentially what you're saying is that we should allow them to govern. We sit back just because we
And
paid them
criticize
as
them
a
from
vote.
time to
We've
time
discussed,
constructively.
We
we've
don't say anything
discussed
about
how
it. We must
complex.
be involved.
Okay, we've discussed how complex the mechanisms are for removing a governor, for instance, because that is the oversight you're talking about. If there's a problem, you go for them. Now, we've seen the mechanisms in place, how complex and intricate they are. For the Mwananchi, for even a person who is
They
well
are
versed with
not
governance,
complex.
they are very
They
complex,
are
and
not
we've seen
complex.
once
We
you inject,
make them
it's an
appear to be
enigma.
complex.
No, once you let MCAs come in and you can bribe them and so on, it becomes an impossibility.
bribing them?
So
No,
it's there
no,
for
no.
lip
You're
service in
muddying-
terms of
you're deliberately
absolutely
muddying these
say we
waters
want
to
to
make a
impeach a
point.
governor. We've gone through this, and this is why I suggested we should have elections every 2 years, because it gives us as the opportunity, as the electorate, more of a role in deciding how the governor is
So you
performing.
started a company, and where you'll be having people working for every 2 months. Every 2 months you have new employees.
You do have appraisals, absolutely.
Exactly,
You have
and that's
And
what
that's
we're saying.
exactly what
The
I'm saying.
appraisal
an
process-
election
We
is
thank
an
you for
appraisal.
bringing in
The
that term.
appraisal
election-
process is what we are saying that
Okay.
citizens
Thank you, Jerry.
must be
Appraisal.
involved in.
And how
Yes.
does this appraisal process for governors look like? Let's take governors just for argument's sake. What would this process look like?
This is what
Other
it
than
would
an
look
election,
like. This is
what
what
would it
it
look
would
like?
look like. When people come to you seeking to be elected, you say, it is all good and well. Please come to us and tell us the contract you want to have with us. Write it down. Tell us, in the next 5 years, this is what I'm going to do. And when we get to the month of November, every year, hold me accountable and tell me,
Right.
this is your scorecard. This is what you've done. This is what you... I said this. and I'm
Performance
putting it-
contracts.
Simple.
Okay, got it. And then?
Simple.
And then?
Simple. Now, this impeachment that you speak about,
No, when the contract is breached.
is it possible for me to continue with my train of thought? The contract doesn't have to be breached because there may be reasons why the individual was not able to fulfill the contract.
Right.
Now, maybe the lawyers will say that's a breach. Okay, if that is a breach, then it's a breach. But the conversation is had, and you have put the leader in a position where they are accountable. This is what we're talking about, accountability.
Right.
They have to explain to you. You see, right now, they don't have to explain to you. They tell you, they inform you. And
we've got also to invert the pyramid as well.
No, let's
so that
see.
you can
I want
feel-
to see what this mechanism looks like, because you haven't told us how we as a citizenry can act as an oversight body to governors without actually going through an election. What else
You
can
do
we
not
do?
need to
Because
go to an
we've
election.
talked about impeachment,
Invert
and
the
we've
pyramid.
seen how
you know what we have right
impossible
now?
it is.
We have a situation where our politicians feel that they are more important than the voter, than the
not
electorate.
feel, Eric. They know.
They feel it.
Well, we make them more important
Exactly.
as
So we make them. Then we need to invert that pyramid.
Okay, let's.
But
it comes
why
to-
you look,
Jerry? Your
let
boy,
me break it down for Jerry.
Your boy knows that when you give him a look, he knows he's done something wrong, and he will stop. He knows who is
Because
in
there's
authority.
consequences and repercussions.
It's a
There you
deterrent.
So that's what
go.
we're saying. There must
There
be
you
consequences
go.
and
And what
repercussions if you
are
go
they? We
off.
can't sit here and theorize and philosophize. What are? Let's
To
be
me,
practical
it's
and
quite
pragmatic.
clear. If
What are the
somebody comes to,
consequences?
if
We
somebody
will
comes
get
to
you
you
out
and
of office.
says,
How?
if
You
somebody
bribe
comes
your
to
way
you,
out- you bribe your way with MCAs. We will. It does not matter.
You know-
we
You
will
know,
come
here
and
we
get
are
you out
again.
of
That's
office.
all
Here we
well
are
and good.
again
We're
and
not
talking
able to
about
do
how
that.
we need to be involved in the process. And I
Because
keep
there's
saying,
actually a legal framework through which we try and do this, but it's so complex and intricate, and it's actually a hindrance.
actually,
and
the
this
legal
is why
framework
I
is not-
suggest
It's not complicated.
of
The legal
impeaching.
framework is
We
not
had this
not
discussion and we
complicated.
discussed the notion of impeaching somebody is an impossibility.
No,
because
it
we
is
can-
not an
They
impossibility.
bribe their MCAs.
That is not the legal framework.
we talked
the legal
about it.
framework
It's
does
not
not
the legal
allow
framework.
them.
Jerry,
to
you're
bribe.
talking about
No, but
the
that has nothing
illegal
to do with
framework.
that. I'm talking about the legal framework through which the individual, i.e., the citizenry, has to navigate their way through an impeachment. I'm not talking about what loopholes or what other factors the governor can play. So what I'm suggesting is impeaching a governor becomes impossible.
No.
And this is why. Wait, let me finish.
Impeachment is a
CT,
deterrent.
CT, let me finish. But when they know, when there's impunity to the impeachment, it's not a deterrent. This is why I was suggesting 2-year elections at a local level.
You know one
But
thing.
that,
That way we
how
have
is a
an
2-year
input.
election a solution?
it's not going
It's
to
a
solve the
solution
problem.
because
How?
every 2 years you
Because
can come
somebody
back
will
and
know-
remove this
The
guy.
MD
Yes, and they go in for 2 years knowing that they can go in and do whatever it is that they
because
want to do
CT
for
is
those
actually
2
raising
years.
issues about institutions. The MD of KFS, the CEO of the Director General of NEMA, these institutions, the heads of these institutions are not elected.
No, they're not. They're appointed.
They are appointed. But people, if they knew that they cannot, they cannot
Muck
get
about,
away.
basically.
They cannot
Yeah.
muck about. Thank you for this. If they knew that, they would do their job. You
Yes.
can't come and stand there and say, I feel for this family, but I know the institutional.
That's bunk.
Get your job done. Come on.
This organization does not have. We don't have. But you've been MD for how long? This is the point. People need to know that you can get out.
And we keep asking ourselves, okay, we can't do this because people don't know. And this is what I am saying. Once you start to, if there's no civic education, we should get to the point where we are demanding. If you speak as an individual, if you don't know something, you push and push and push until the answer is given to you. And we need to get to that point where we push and push and push until the answers are given to us. We can demand for this information if we don't know. And the fact of the matter remains very clear. If we look at Kenya, for example, politicians or leaders know that you're not going to demand for that information because they know that you've been passive until a certain level. But if we invert that pyramid, just like Eric said, if we demand for this information, if we demand for these services, trust me, there will be a turnaround.
There's
but the
something-
problem is that we
How?
want
How? The
there's
question
something-
is how?
we want a microwave.
It's all
There's
well and
something-
good.
there's
You can
something
we
that
want a
Jerry doesn't
microwave.
have.
How
kind
do
of
we
thing.
demand? This is what I'm asking.
Jerry,
So you can tell me do this.
Jerry,
How do I do it?
Every time
tell
I
the
start to
citizenry
tell
how
you
to
how
go about
you
it.
interrupt.
Okay, tell me,
Every
CT.
time I try to tell you how you interrupt.
All right,
and then when I start
apologize.
again,
Go
you
ahead.
interrupt again. So I'm going to start and interrupt appropriately, but just interrupt briefly, okay?
In a minute.
Understood.
Look, voters are not a mass of people. They're groups of people, and they even have structures within those places where they vote. And they talk to these politicians as those groups. Their structures exist. It's a question of, as I said, the contract. It's politicians go to those places and talk to people. You can enforce a contract, but it has to exist.
Okay. Now, I want to know how. You're not telling people how they should participate. You're saying enforce the contract. We need to complain. We need to ask questions. We need to demand. Other than at the ballot
How do you
box.
want this how to be formulated?
Other unactionable.
You know,
other than the,
what
the
have I
ballot
just said?
box. No,
You know-
other than
you
the
know-
ballot box.
you know the reason
you can
why
say,
de-
yeah, we can go and talk to the politicians at the baraza and so on.
Demonstrations are
What if
allowed
they
in
still
law.
breach the contract?
How does
okay, so
lobbying
through
work?
demonstrations.
That is one.
How does
Okay.
You
lobbying
wanted
work
an
in other
example?
countries?
Through
How does
lobbying?
lobbying, yes, how does lobbying work in other countries? And lobbying is a big facet of how the citizenry is able to reach their leadership, and we cannot ignore that. It has been seen to have worked. It has worked over time, and it can still work now.
So
City
let's
Muga is
demonstrate.
saying that the government has played its part, but the citizenry are not playing their part. You're not playing your part of actually supervising your employee, and the employee is the government official.
Yes.
And this is what City Muga is saying. 0719-012-600. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Of course, you know, we are also live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, and on Twitter, Spice FM KE. Our hashtag is Situation Room. In the next hour, we're going to discuss also ODM, and the ODM Secretary General will be joining us. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice it.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Traffic is flowing well and good on Kangundo Road. Is that how you say it? Kangundo. There you go.
It's Kangundo.
Maybe I should just stick to Pidgin. Oh, yeah. All right. Parklands, Nairobi. No missing links getting towards the city center. Wahala no day for that side today. Wayaki Way. Jam don't start from Ithiru. Now how do they call them? Uthiru.
Othiru.
All the way down to Safaricom heading into town. So everybody want jam enter town this morning. CBD go day. Wahala go day for CBD today. Because as traffic not there for all these our main roads today, now CBD we go enter all of us knock together. If you get anything when you want to make us know, call us at beg 0719-012-600. Make we know where we fit enter so that jam no go knock us.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your
A
day.
very good morning to you. 2 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Our hashtag is Situation Room on Twitter. We are live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, Spice FM KE, on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. Our frequencies around the country, we're in Nairobi, 94.4, Mombasa, 87.9, Kisumu, 102.5, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.6 in Malindi. Well, when you say we have Kenya's biggest conversation, is because we hold all the conversations of all manner of ways. We've just been putting ourselves to task as the public and saying, what has the public got to do with the failures of the government? Now, let's also look at political parties. What do political parties as organs of human beings, of the public, also have got to do with this? And we're joined in the studio this morning by a very good friend who is the ODM Secretary General, Mr. Edwin Sifuna. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Karibu
Thank you so
sana
much for having me here. As I was telling you, this is my first time here, and I really like the studio. I think it's easily the best I've seen in this country.
And you've been around.
And I've been around.
You get around?
I've been to all of them.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Asante sana.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Of course, I'm Eric Latif. I'll let everybody else introduce themselves to you.
Absolutely.
I am C.T. Muga.
Jerry Thorne.
Ndu Oko.
Nice to meet you all.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
So you are here in your capacity as one, a Kenyan, 2, Secretary General of ODM.
Yeah.
3, Vice Chairman of
CMD,
the Center for Multi-Party Democracy.
Yes.
And many others. Well, of course, because you're in the political parties, then you're also a politician. So we're going to put some few questions to you.
Sure.
And we want you to answer as honestly as you can.
Yeah.
As politically correct as you can.
I don't think we do political correctness in ODM. We are going to try and speak the truth. You will lay out the facts. There's people who will like it, and there's those who will not like it. There are those who will agree, and there are those who will disagree. Yeah.
Jerry.
I want to start with the fact, first of all, that you work at, or you're at the helm of leadership at the Center of Multi-Party Democracy.
Yes.
Don't you find it contradictory then that you have failed in your role as opposition in Kenya, which is crucial for a healthy democracy?
First
you
of
as
all,
a party.
The Center for Multi-Party Democracy is an amalgamation of all the political parties, parliamentary political
What is its
parties in
role?
Kenya. There is about 19 signed up and paid up members as we speak, including the ruling party. So,
but its role primarily is to promote democracy.
It's not really a political, an opposition entity as it is.
No. I'm talking about now that with your position.
The role
on
of the
ODM.
Center for Multi-Party Democracy is supposed to create capacity within political parties for them to be able to play their role in the democratization of
so
the
that you can promote and enhance democracy.
Absolutely.
Now, with that, one of the tenets of democracy is a healthy opposition to hold the government accountable and check on excesses in the legislature and give the electorate options in democracy.
Absolutely.
Do you not feel with a handshake you may have failed the electorate?
I think there is a misunderstanding of the sort of system of governance that we have in this country. We have a presidential system, just like in the US, where essentially Parliament is supposed to play the role of checking the executive. Parliament as an entity. What we have is, in terms of the experience we have had as a country, is that in the 2013-2017 period, when the Jubilee Party had the so-called tyranny of numbers, when we had the so-called tyranny of numbers, some of the members of the ruling party conflated their membership to the party with membership to the executive. And the constitutional safeguards that are woven into the constitution to check the executive were essentially taken off the table. One of the biggest stories in the world right now is the impeachment of Trump by Congress. Now, we do have a similar, mechanism in our constitution. But at the height of the so-called tyranny of numbers, we could not even get a member of parliament to censure our cabinet secretary. You remember the incident with Anne Waiguru, when essentially the president would call the members of the Jubilee Party to State House and just tell them that you need to drop this motion. We believe, and I still believe, that during that particular time, the first term, Uhuru committed serious crimes against the constitution, violation of court orders. You remember the issue of teachers, hiring of police officers, the Lamu land reclamation or attempted reclamation. So we thought actually that if the constitution worked the way that it did, it was supposed to, in those particular instances, at the very minimum, we needed to see parliamentary censure. So what we have right now is people who have, I don't want to use this term in a derogatory manner, but a hangover from the old constitutional order, where we actually had backbenchers who played the role of opposition, and also people who have a hangover from confrontational politics, so that right now people don't believe that you can hold a government to account by having a discussion, that the only way they know how to hold a government to account is to make noise and to be adversarial and to throw insults and to, to speak at each other as opposed to talking to each other.
Is there a way to cure this hangover that we talk about? Because
I
obviously
think
it seems that
the
is the
handshake
only way
is
to
a supposed
it seems
cure,
that's
I
the only
suppose.
way to get out of
I think
this,
like
because we
all
can't
hangovers,
continue.
and I'm sure around the table we have experienced a few, it's just a matter of time. You give it time, drink a lot of water, try some
When you
coffee.
say around the table, why are you looking directly at me?
What do you know about CT?
about CT that we don't.
No, without imputing anything negative to any particular person. I think with time, with experience, people are going to see that there's a difference. And personally, I believe that the accusation that somehow ODM or our party leader has abandoned the opposition role is unfounded, because there is not any particular instance that you can cite and say this is the reason why you think opposition now has died. It is possible, and this is one of the tenets of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, for there to exist cooperation among political parties. And we have visited countries such as places like Denmark, where the issue of cooperation is not that you have to be enemies when you are politicians in different political parties. It is possible for us.
We can have collaborative leadership and healthy competition. But
and it is not necessarily the death of opposition.
There's one incident I want to bring to the fore, which was the inspection of Raila of Galana Kalulu and his...
Kulalu. Galana Kulalu.
Kulalu.
Yes.
Yes, and his inspection of that and his subsequent endorsement of the project and saying that it was doing well. It would have been his key responsibility as opposition, if he was actually doing his job, to point out that maybe there were some issues taking place and to get people riling up behind him to ensure that the government does the right thing. Instead, what we saw is him go there and endorse the project and say everything was okay. Now, this is... it's indicative of what happens when the opposition is not playing its role. You don't put the government of the day to task. You don't hold them accountable. This is one of the pillars. I also want to discuss the fact that you have completely taken away choice from people. So people don't have a choice. We'll come to that, which is a key tenet of democracy. And then, of course, you've told us about the checks and balances or the excesses of the legislature and how it was an impossibility to do anything because of the tyranny of numbers. But I want us to go back and deal with this idea of accountability. And I've given you an example of when it's gone wrong because of the handshake. Are we then saying the idea of unity in Kenya supersedes or is more important than democracy as we know it? Because it's a possibility and we can discuss that.
First of all, the example that you cite is based on the wrong information. Unfortunately for you, you've fallen victim of
the media houses.
Absolutely.
Because what I watched, although it was Raila himself saying that it's
not
fine.
The media houses. I did not hear Raila say that the project is fine. In fact, when he went to Galana, everybody knows that Galana is one of the biggest corruption scandals in this country. In fact, the Israeli firm that was contracted to partner with the Kenyan government has said that in the 70 years of the existence of the State of Israel and the partnerships they have been doing in agriculture, this is the first time such a partnership is failing, and it is because of all the
ambassador resigned.
Absolutely, all the corruption that was embedded into this particular project. As conceived, it was supposed to be 1 million acres of land under irrigation to be able to supplement the food production in other areas of the country. Everybody knows that the project is a failure.
Okay, can I just interject at this point? Please allow me to interject, because you've refuted something I've said and you're building an argument on that. I've got here quoting Raila. We've come here to witness for ourselves. We're hearing reports that funds for the project have been embezzled, but we've witnessed something good, he said, that it is not a white elephant. This is verbatim quoting.
So this is what you need to understand. There is a demonstration farm that was set up for about 10,000 acres. That was not the Galana Kulalu project. It was 1 million acres under irrigation. Right. So if you go to the demonstration farm, you will actually see something good.
So there was parts of it. Okay, so what you're saying, there was parts of it, there was components of it that he was
It's a demonstration farm.
For what? For the Galana Kulalu project.
Exactly. So
Raila
what I'm telling
Odinga
you,
gives Galana project thumbs up.
So when he goes to the demonstration farm,
let me tell you one thing. I used to be a consumer of news, and when I became a maker of news, I realize there's a problem with the reporting of news in this country. So just because you are in
Raila
a place,
was misquoted or we misunderstood him?
For instance, I will sit here today and they will say Sifuna has endorsed Spice FM as a leading radio.
But it depends what you say. It depends what you say. I'm quoting him verbatim.
The physical presence of Raila at that particular project cannot be said that he endorsed a program.
I have quoted what he said.
What did he say?
I have quoted what he said verbatim.
He saw the demonstration farm.
Right.
He said it is a good project if it was done the way that it was supposed to be done, if all the corruption did not go into that particular project.
He said it's not a white elephant.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You have a report that you are saying is the actual truth of what was said, but I am telling you it was different.
So are we saying that he looked at the demonstration area?
He was talking about
kind
the
of like the
demonstration
pilot for
farm.
the rest of it. So if you
let me ask you right now, if you go to
when they were talking about the white elephant,
there is 1 million acres.
No, let's
supposed to
not
be
conflate
irrigated.
matters. Let me
So
make
when
it
you
very
go
easy
there,
for the
you will
audience.
be shown the demonstration farm. And
Sifuna.
the demonstration farm is
No,
actually
when it was being called,
something good.
no.
So
When
are
it
you
was being
saying
called
that
a
kind of
white
like when you
elephant,
go
was
to-
it the demonstration
Okay,
farm that
here's-
the white elephant?
Here's
Are you
the
saying
thing.
like kind of like when you go to an estate to see houses, they show you the show house?
Yeah,
So are you saying
if,
that what
if,
you
if
saw
the
was
show
the
house,
show
if the
house?
show house
okay.
is a good house, you say this is a good house.
Okay,
It's a
now
good house.
listen,
It's very
Sifuna,
simple. But
Sifuna.
everybody knows.
Clearly,
Was
there
it
is
was
a
it the
problem
show
with,
house that was being accused of being a white elephant?
No, it's
because
the
he was
project
categorical.
itself.
Now
It's
he
the
said
project
it is not a
itself.
white elephant.
It's the
Raila
project
refuted
itself.
that and said it is not a white
And-
elephant. He
and
wasn't talking about the
here's
show
what
house.
you need to understand. You know, there's a definition of a white elephant. It is a project that even if done to completion, is not going to bring any benefit at all to anyone. But we are saying that if Galana Kulalu was done in accordance to the plans that were there, devoid of corruption, it is not a white elephant.
So when he
it is
was there,
actually a project that can produce maize.
the
So it
ODM
can be
leader
seen-
did not talk
So
about
now there's
corruption.
conditionality in his
can be seen.
approval. He's
No,
saying
no.
if we don't have
see,
corruption, it is good.
Let
And
me
he
tell-
did not
let me
even
tell
talk
you
about
something.
corruption there.
Let
He
me
didn't.
just say something. You know, if you're looking to find fault, you will always find fault.
No, I'm looking to emphasize
Give
the
us-
fact that
give
the
us an
opposition is not
example.
playing its
Give us an
role in
example of
holding
a
the government
failure
accountable.
of opposition to hold the government accountable.
This is
We
an
speak
example.
about corruption every single day. We have been the ones. We are the reasons.
When was the last time
even
Raila
after-
spoke of corruption?
Now you will have to look for clips from last weekend. Even yesterday, when we were with him at the fundraiser for Kibera,
He's
he actually
specific
spoke
about
about
the
it.
DP. He's
So
not-
it is there. No. It is corruption is a problem
Do you want
in this
to
country.
tell me
it,
he
it
is as
affects
vigorous
everyone.
or rigorous as he was in the run-up to the
It
elections,
depends
where
on how
we
you
had the
want to
headlines
define
every day?
Riga and Vigor.
No,
Because the truth of the
listen,
matter is,
no.
when we started, let me-
Sifuna,
let
you're
me
going
answer.
into semantics,
Let me
but you are
answer.
failing people who supported the
Let me
opposition.
answer.
You're
Let me
not
answer.
holding government accountable.
You know, if you start saying, if we start going into the discussion of how we are failing people who are in the opposition, we will start asking questions of the people who
Let's
voted
get
for this
some
government.
calls and hear what the audience
We will
thinks.
start
I'm
asking
sure
questions
I'm-
about the people who
I'm
sold us this
resonating with
government,
a lot of-
and
with
then
a lot
want
of
to come and tell us that we are failing the people in
So, Edwin,
opposition. It's
Edwin.
ridiculous.
Do you know it's okay to
Paint
accept
for
that
us the
unity is
picture.
important?
Paint for us the picture of ODM and the role it's playing as the official opposition. Well, not necessarily the official opposition. NASA should be the official opposition coalition. So, what is NASA or ODM actually doing as the opposition? How is it putting the government in check? Just paint for us that picture.
Personally, you know, we need to understand, first of all, the existing regime of law.
Yes.
The existing system of government. Number one, I have told you that we are in a presidential system of government. It is the responsibility of certain institutions to be able to keep government in check. It is not the responsibility of any single political party or entity. Number one, in a presidential system, it is the responsibility of parliament as an entity. Parliament as an entity to be able to keep the executive in check. It is
To
not
check
the
the
responsibility.
excesses, absolutely. That's the legislature,
and
so,
you have the
so this is
opposition
what
in the
I'm saying.
legislature.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
your role
Are
as
you
opposition in
are
a
you
democracy-
asking- let me finish, Njeri. Are you asking how is the body, the entity that is responsible for keeping or checking the executive excesses, how is it working? Or you're asking me as a leader of a political party how ODM is supposed to keep the government in check? It's a ridiculous question because it has no basis in law. There is no law that gives ODM power. For instance, for me to say I'm going to stop the excesses of executive, with what powers? It is Parliament.
There is
through its
structures.
legislative
It doesn't
powers,
have to
through
be
its,
legislated
powers
for.
to be able to allocate resources and to remove resources from certain areas, to approve projects. That is the responsibility of the National Assembly and the Senate.
You know, the presidential system that you speak of is not new, right? We've
It's new, actually.
No, okay.
In this particular dispensation, it is new.
dispensation is
Yeah.
new, right? But then we also know that we've got majority and minority in parliament.
Yes.
And there's a reason why there's a majority and minority recognized.
So what is the reason, Eric?
So
It's the way people voted.
It's
That
the
is
way
the
people
reason. But there's a
voted.
reason we have an opposition,
this particular
we
case-
fund an opposition because you have a role to play in a healthy democracy, of which you have failed the people. I've given you the 3 pillars on which you have failed.
But let me ask
First
a
of all,
question.
providing options. No, Sifuna, don't ignore my ignore my statement.
I actually want to chime in here.
because you
because-
can't answer the question.
You can make statements, but I want to answer questions.
Ask something.
Yeah.
No, but from what Jerry is saying, there seem to be not just a proscribed way in which the opposition must conduct their business. Where is it written?
Let her tell us that.
Where?
Once she
because
sheds light on that.
there's a way in which Jerry
Once she
seems to
tells us
feel
that, we will
the
be able to
opposition
answer.
must
It is-
function, and the opposition, understand, is a coalition.
And that's why I actually asked Sifuna, just give us, because you are in the leadership of the party, just give us how you've organized yourselves so that you actually ensure that your members in parliament play their role.
So let me tell you what we are doing. Number one, as a party, we are able to, we have a parliamentary group. That parliamentary group will bring forth, for instance, matters that are up for debate within the Houses of Parliament. They will seek for guidance from the parties. We have directorates that give them pointers on the position of a party on matters that are coming before the House. We had recently, we lost one of the most important votes where we had given specific guidance to the parliamentary group on what we thought should be done when it came to the issue of the IEBC, for instance.
Right.
We lost that vote. It is parliamentary democracy as it is.
Yes,
we
it
would
happens.
have loved to see a situation whereby we did away with the current IEBC and put in place a separate mechanism for the appointment of commissioners of the IEBC. But as it is, we lost the vote. That is what the minority side and majority side means. So we are executing our role. We are trying to impart or impact on the country what we believe is right, how we view things, how we view the IEBC, the electoral regime, all of these things.
Have you had
it
any
is
public
channeled
conversation about that? Especially, let's talk
That's
about
not
that
a matter
particular bill.
for the public debate, for instance.
It should be.
Because let me tell you how
Anything is a
Parliament
matter of
works.
public
It
debate.
should be. There was public participation on
Eric,
this.
let me tell
Why
you.
don't we let the gentleman tell us why it isn't?
This is what I'm telling you. The matter of the appointment of new commissioners was a matter before a departmental committee of the House. So what they do is they write letters to stakeholders, including political parties, for us to be able to give our views on such an important bill, because we are stakeholders. So what happens is, as a party, we prepare a memorandum and we say this is what we think should happen in this particular instance. We submit it to the committees of parliament. And then during the day of the vote, we call our parliamentary whip, Honorable Junet, we call the leader of minority, Honorable Mbadi. We have a sit down, we discuss the matter, and we say, as a political party, this is what we would like to do. And these are matters that are going to happen within the precincts of parliament.
Right.
So if you hold a rally over such a matter, those people you're talking to do not have any say, because this is a matter that is before parliament. You require numbers within parliament itself to be able to vote on this particular matter. So not everything is to be taken, through that particular process of, rallies, noise, public discussions, because it is a matter that is before a committee and it is a matter for a vote.
It's a matter for a vote, yes, Edwin, and I hear you, and I completely agree. However, it's a matter that also has a lot of public interest.
Absolutely.
And that's why there was an issue of public
I agree,
interest.
and this is what I want to bring. I'm happy you are discussing the role of a citizen in this country. Do you know that as stakeholders, as a public, nobody prevents the public or any member of the public to actually submit memoranda to even those committees of parliament? They actually advertise and they say there's a certain bill.
Yes, and there was public participation.
So that is
on
not
phase.
for ODM to mobilize you. You have a responsibility under Article 3 as a citizen of this country to participate in legal lawmaking in this country and to advance the interest of the public when it comes to matters that affect the
Which
public.
gets into the rabbit hole where I was heading to. You see, as a political party, you have membership not only of the leadership but also membership of ordinary members of your party.
There is a
ordinary
meaning to the word leadership.
Yes.
Latif.
So at the point
there is times at which we will fall back to our membership and tell them that this is a matter that we would like to hear from you. For instance,
So in this particular one, you do not think that you needed to
let me
step back to your public?
Let me give you the reasons. You see, all of these things are happening within a certain context, Latif. After the handshake, I think we are the only political party that put together a technical committee to look at the 9-point memorandum that was signed between the president and our party leader, and ask the question, what would be our contribution in terms of proposing solutions to these issues that have been identified. And as a political party, because we have structures until every polling station, all the 42,000 polling stations in the country, we have structures until the lowest possible voting unit in the country. So what we did through our county chairman, we asked them the same question. What would you like to see, for instance, if you were presented with the question of dealing with ethnic mobilization in our politics? What would you say? So we have gone through that entire consultations, and I have reports upon reports from all the 47 counties from our membership as a political party.
On the BBI.
Now, one of the things, is of course one of the 9 points was how to deal with the issue of divisive elections in the country, and proposals came. When you're dealing with divisive elections, it includes the structure of government, it includes the electoral management body itself. People have given us, our membership have given us their position. In fact, the preference of the members of ODM is to have a system of appointment of commissioners similar to what we had with the IPPG. It is there. And it is upon that same feedback, that as a leader now sitting in my office, having received all this feedback from the people, when I receive an invitation...
So that's what you advocated
exactly.
when the bill came to the floor.
Are we saying that the propositions that come from the people are actually then imbibed in what you put forth as proposals then? And I'm asking
It's
because
true.
I would like to understand to what depth public participation actually goes when you're now making these proposals towards the vote.
Okay, for us as a party, let me tell you, if you don't do right by the members of ODM, they will just leave you behind. So there is a very, very deliberate effort to always incorporate the views of the membership of a party.
Because you don't want to be left behind, or
Yes,
because you're
because
actually interested in putting the interests of
first
people
of all, as a
at the
political
fore.
party, you require support, you require membership. And the only way somebody is going to give you their support is if you actually value their
you listen
view
to them.
and you listen to them.
But the
So
party
it
is
is
renowned for
important to me.
top-down leadership.
It is,
So in
it is
terms of
important to
incorporating
me
others,
as a leader, let me just finish, Jerry. It is important to me to hear what the members of the party are saying. For instance, in Kibera, they were very clear that if we attempted as the leadership of a party to give someone the direct ticket, we would have problems with them. Even if we had gone for Imran and given him a direct ticket, we would be in problems now. They wanted that candidate to emerge from a process of a membership. So it is important to listen. So we do listen. We consult. We have 47 county chairs. Just recently, we had a meeting with them at the new Orange House to show them the new house, for them to be able to know where the new party headquarters are. It is important to carry people along if you are in leadership. That does not mean that it is what was
Top
he saying?
down.
Top down. No, it's not like that. It's actually bottom up.
But
it has been top-down in the
leadership
past.
in our political parties is top down. I mean, the reality is, it's like even in a lot of the time, the information that you get from the leadership is a fiat. There's talk of participation, yes, but essentially you are told what to do.
No. You see, this is one of those. I don't know how to call it, but it is propaganda that has been
created
repeated
by the media.
No, it's not
Another
created
one.
by the media. It has been repeated enough times so that everybody believes it to
repeating
be
it?
Because what's different
everybody.
Who's
hasn't
repeating it?
Everybody.
What's different
I
is
hear
not
this-
visible,
I hear this
Sifuna.
from all sorts of quarters, but I thought you brought me here to share my own experience.
Okay,
So
so
that
Sifuna-
giving you a feedback.
Latif, just a minute.
And we also give you our feedback.
Yeah,
When-
it's
when we
okay.
say this
So
is
I've
it.
received the feedback from him. I want to share my experience. Is that possible at Spice FM?
It is possible.
I want to share my
and remember,
experience.
I have said all political
Yes,
parties.
it's okay.
I have not singled
I
out
understand. I understand. Now, just last month, I was at an Africa Union meeting of political parties in the East African region. It was actually identified as one of the biggest problems in the region is that we have political parties that heavily rely on one charismatic leader. It is not just a problem in Kenya. We have the Rwandese Patriotic Front, people asking questions, what would happen to that political party if Kagame say were to leave? What would happen to the, what is it called? The one
The
for
Uganda.
Museveni? Yes. So it is a debate that we are alive to. But I want to share my own personal experiences as a Secretary General of the party. Of course, even when I came in, I had heard these stories that once the party leader says this, it goes. In my own personal experience, we have countermanded Raila on more than 10 occasions that I can name easily here. Yeah, because he puts his ideas forward and they are subjected. We have committees of a party. For instance, we have the Central Management Committee, we have the National Executive Committee. Good leaders also allow their ideas to be shaped by others. And Raila is one such leader. He would come with a proposal to a meeting and people would give different angles. What if we did it like this? This one will have this result. This one would have this result. I am telling you for a fact. I
So
have
he comes
seen it
with the
happen.
agenda to the
No,
meeting.
that not that everyone comes to a meeting with an agenda. I'm the Secretary General. I go into a meeting. I know that I need certain approvals to be made by certain organs of the party. So I'll carry my agenda. So on that agenda, people will give views. So if we throw an agenda on this table, you will have a view. She will have a view. She will have a view. So it is not that it is wrong for someone to carry an agenda into
No,
a
that's
meeting. That's
an
why people
example
go
of
to
top-down
meetings.
leadership. Usually, if it's bottom-up, you'll get the sentiments of the people, and that creates the agenda. But I have a quick question for you. Where do you get your funding from as ODM?
First of all, as ODM, we qualify for the political parties fund. I think
Absolutely.
it is the biggest source of financing for ODM. Number two, we have membership contributions, subscriptions. We have contributions from members of parliament. We have contributions from members of the county assembly. They contribute to the party. So that is like the core source of funding for the party.
I always have been of the opinion that political parties should be ideology based, so that we run away from this issue of when a particular leader is not there, the party will still be able to hold ground.
Absolutely, and I agree with you.
Right. So what are the ideologies for ODM specifically now that you say that this party stands on, and regardless of who is at the helm of leadership, those ideologies will be lived through?
Yeah, so this is one of the challenges we have as political parties, and I've told you, I have admitted that sometimes because you have such a charismatic leader at the helm of a party, it almost always
looks like it's his party.
Yes,
It's him.
it almost always
Him and
looks
the party
like
are one of
him.
them.
The party is him.
Is him,
But
right.
ODM is founded on certain ideologies. And it is our business to articulate those ideologies so that people actually understand. Whether we believe that they exist or not is a different story, because people will always want to fight. Hii ni kawaida ya siasa. So we are a social democratic party. We believe in equal distribution of resources, for instance, for all citizens, equal access to opportunities to education, equal opportunities to politics, to all sorts of things. To women, to youth, all of those things, they are spelled out very clearly in our constitution. And we believe that actually, given the opportunity to actually implement some of those ideas, we would be measured from that perspective of whether really there's an ideological founding for the party. There are things that, for instance, as ODM, we will not suffer. We believe in a free press. You understand the sort of problems that the media ran into with the Jubilee administration. There was a time when media houses such as this one were being raided by police. Newspapers burned down, journalists being threatened with arrest. That is Jubilee for you. For us, really, we believe that we have to have, as a basic tenet of democracy, you have to have a free media. You have to have a free civil society. You know how
And
hard,
an active opposition.
You know how hard the Jubilee administration went after civil society just in the run-up to the elections. So you have to know that there is clear distinction in terms of what we believe in between Jubilee and ODM. You will not see Sifuna as a cabinet secretary threatening journalists.
Do you think
fire and
that?
brimstone.
Do you think that all leaders that are then elected under the ODM umbrella, under that political party, at whatever level they are, MCA, women rep, governor, etc., etc., do you feel that they all bear those elements, those tenets?
Not
of the
always.
political
Not
party?
always, but they
Isn't
should.
that something that you would
But
like to
they
see
should.
happening?
I would love that to happen, because one of the discussions
And how
we
can
have
that be enforced?
One of the discussions we have at the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, all political parties acknowledge that sometimes we are in a very tenuous relationship with the people who actually carry our tickets. It's a discussion amongst all political parties. What sort of control does a political party, for instance, have over the ideas that are advanced by the people who are elected on their ticket once those people get elected? Do you know that it is impossible sometimes, even as the Secretary General, to even contact somebody who's elected on my own party ticket, because there is all sorts of I don't understand. I mean, it's difficult to understand because of the nature of our Kenyan politics. There are people who use political parties as just vehicles.
Actually, it's like asking someone to police human nature.
Exactly. So they will come and say,
how exactly do you do that?
You will hear quite often that mimi hata kama munge nipea hii ticket, I would still have one. Sifuna, I used my own money. You people never supported me. Why should I even come? Like yesterday we were having
I brought you votes.
But generally, like yesterday there was such a serious show of camaraderie, because all the members of parliament who are elected on an ODM, all our governors, they actually contributed to the Kibra campaign, and we are very happy about that. But the critical question is really, do the people who get elected, for instance, on an ODM ticket, first of all, understand what the party is, what they are doing, and do they live those ideologies? We get embarrassed sometimes, and it is something that I will admit readily, because my work is not to hide my head under the sand. We get embarrassed sometimes. We have people in leadership on our party tickets heading counties, and there's all sorts of confusion and problems in those counties. It is difficult to justify. But I want people to understand that the relationship between a candidate and the political party is not as it should be. We have postulated, for instance, at the CMD, when proposals were being made to the Political Parties Act, that a political party needs to have greater strength to actually even be able to discipline its members.
And
For
to whip
instance,
its members.
I expel a member of a party by the biggest organ of a party in accordance with the party constitution, but a simple court order from the political party's dispute tribunal forces us to remain together.
And she
and this is somebody, who has continues to profess that she's no longer with you, but there is nothing as a political party
that you can
do. So in fact, that is a debate that is going on amongst the leadership of political parties, even at the CMD, on how really you can strengthen the hand of a political party. Do you know, even...
Hold your thought right there, Edwin. I want to go into a commercial break so we can take a look at traffic. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning, we have the ODM Secretary General, Edwin Sifuna. He's here. He's answering our questions. He's holding his ground. But, well, we still have a lot of questions to ask him. And also, if you have a question to ask him, 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. You can watch him on Facebook, Spice FM KE, where we are live streaming. And you can post your question there as well, and we shall ask him. This is a Situation Room, 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. Good morning.
Have you subscribed to the Standard Digital e-paper yet? You better, because we have really great news for you. Get tailor-made packages for daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly subscriptions at discounted prices that are out of this world. Now that's great news. It's the all-inclusive and convenient news platform that can be accessed in one subscription plan. So, simply download the Standard Digital e-paper app from Google Play Store or Apple Store, or visit newsstand.standardmedia.co.ke and subscribe now. Standard Digital e-paper.
Just a top up away, just how you like it.
Tired of living your same old life? Need to spice it up and add some flavor? Well, we can help you go from living to living it up. East Africa, are you ready to be a part of the most vibrant entertainment scene with the best, freshest music, travel tips and destinations, fashion, tech and health trends, as well as your favorite celebrities' lifestyles? Introducing your favorite entertainment magazine, Pulsar, the ultimate all-in-one guide that will give you more meaning to life. Catch up with your celebrity writers and contributors to stay up to date with what's happening around you, where and how you can be a part of all that. The lifestyle guide that has been missing in your life. Pulsar. Live it up.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz. Traffic.
An accident on Juju Road is going to affect operations entering into the CBD. There have been rescue first aiders on site to try and get that sorted out. And it is then affecting traffic on Thika Road and also on Outer Ring. Langata Road is a parking lot, unfortunately. Traffic is not moving. The situation is bad, bad, bad. Go to sleep, it said, because you're not going anywhere anytime soon, from what we see. All right. Also upstage towards Muthaiga, going in the opposite direction, is bumper to bumper because the police are on site actually trying to get errant matatus from doing what they shouldn't be. Juja Road along Redeemed Church is also bumper to bumper, slow traffic from the Donholm roundabout all the way to the City Stadium. It's around that time, 8:37, and it's going to be that way for about another half hour or so keep it together. By 9 o'clock you should be fine. Send us anything that we need to know about. Give us a call on 0719-012-600. We'll keep you moving this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Streaming live on Facebook, Spice FM KE, and on YouTube, Spice FM KE, our Twitter handle, Spice FM KE, and our hashtag this morning, Situation Room. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation on Spice FM. Now, we have in the room this morning Edwin Sifuna. He's the Secretary General of ODM Party, and he's been telling us a number of things this morning about the role that the party is playing in Kenya's politics and leadership. He's actually also told us that the party has an ideology. And, it sounds like it's a surprise. And the ideology of the party is social democracy, where they believe in freedom and equal opportunities for all, freedom for the civil society, freedom for the media, and all those things. If you have a question for Edwin Sifuna, or if you have a comment, please go on to our Facebook page, Spice FM KE, and you can post it there. 0719 012 600 is the telephone number to call this morning.
I have a two-pronged question to ask. One, ODM has for the longest time been in the opposition, and so they have been associated to the with opposition politics to the point where it is assumed it is the official position.
They belong there.
Yes, because the questions that are here being asked is like, your job is to be in the opposition. Why are you not? Now, Mr. Sifuna, do you feel it is the duty of the party to actually educate the general public on what the role of the opposition in any government should be?
I think that's what I've been doing since morning, to educate people, including some in this studio.
You've been misleading people. No. One thing I understand thoroughly is democracy.
Why
You've been misleading people. You've been misleading people. I haven't said much because I want to join your party after
this.
Let
me finish. Let me finish answering the question that was posed. I think it is critical. Civic education never stops. There is a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of ignorance in the country, and as leadership, it is our responsibility to be able to try and assuage that situation. I don't think it is right for anyone to say, like Latif has said, that ODM belongs in the opposition. No.
Every political party. I was just basically carrying on to the question.
It's the perception. It is the perception.
Exactly. Every political party exists to compete for political power and leadership. And just because you've never seen us as government per se doesn't mean that we always belong in the opposition.
And you're not the only party
but
anyway.
It also says something about the citizenry and these other pretenders to opposition leaders, because you can imagine, even after many of them or some of them have declared themselves official leaders of opposition, Kenyans are still crying that there's no opposition. Because there is no gravitas when somebody like Okot says, because he ran for the repeat presidential election, now he's the official opposition. I remember he declared himself. Where is the gravitas? When somebody like Mudavadi says, oh, now I'm the one taking over.
So we're going back to personality politics.
No,
so
this
it's
is
the individual that matters now.
I'm saying it is a big tragedy. I started by saying that. It's a big tragedy that Kenyans as a whole, we have outsourced this responsibility. It's a constitutional responsibility. All of us have to participate in making this country greater. It is unfortunate that we have outsourced it to a few individuals. And these individuals are transient, like all of us. So what happens to you if Sifuna or Raila is no longer there? Who will you be crying to and saying, oh, the opposition is dead? What have you done lately for you to be able to pursue this agenda of keeping, perfecting our union as a country? So we have that responsibility under Article 3. It is a constitutional responsibility. We have largely abdicated it because we have always known there is someone. It gets very interesting, by the way. People on Twitter, they just chill. When things go wrong, where is Raila? Where's Raila? Why isn't he saying anything? Then Raila is on the ballot. They are the first one to say, oh, we cannot vote for somebody who's not circumcised. Oh, this is somebody who participated in what? Oh, what? Immediately the election is over. The government start feeling the pinch of the mistake they made. Where is Raila? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Obviously, this is something that needs a solution, and we keep asking the question.
Yes.
Then if we're talking about the citizenry, because I think this is who you're directing these sentiments to.
Yes.
And if we're saying the citizenry need to be then involved in the process, we've asked the question and we've tried to really diffuse the situation and ask, what then do the citizenry do? And we've asked, and I know, for example, I've always said that there must be a serious, active, vibrant lobbying platform in this country. Yes. Unfortunately, we are not there yet.
So let me ask you a question.
Apart from that, what needs to be done? Because clearly what I hear you doing now is crying for help.
Let me tell you, I am just saying that we are a very passive society.
Yes, that word
in
has been
terms
used
of
severally.
in terms of the things that I remember during the first term of Jubilee, after we tried to organize the way that you're talking about, having this organization,
Mobilizing
mobilize
people.
and rally people. And we always ended up with maybe a maximum of 10,000 people on the streets for whatever issue there was. I used to ask myself back then, what is this one thing that will get all Kenyans upset enough for all of them to come to the streets without being mobilized? It is happening in other countries. We saw the Arab Spring. We have seen what is happening in Hong Kong. It is not any political leader telling people that this is wrong. Surely, where will Kenyans draw the line and say, on this particular one, I
Our
am not
parties
going
have
to work
failed us.
today.
We're going to take responsibility ourselves.
No, it's not that our parties have. I'm saying from the start, we
Own
have to
the country, are
appreciate
you saying?
the constitutional duty that is upon you under Article 3. Do you appreciate that it is upon you, first of all? And
It's
then
a
number
right,
two,
it's not a
what
duty.
is it that will move the needle for you? What is it that what is this one thing that if it happened today, you would say, now this is enough for me? We have come to a place where I think even Kenyans have become numb because we are used to all sorts of, bad things. Money is stolen. It starts with 700 million. People are, Then it comes to billions of shillings. People are used to it right now, even if it is reported that it is 300 billion shillings or whatever money has
We've
been stolen.
become desensitized.
Yeah, nobody cares. For as long as I can
I'd
go
like
to
to
my job.
interject, please, and let me talk
Yeah.
about 2022 politics a little bit.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, I'll be joining your party, so I'll be speaking to
Karibu
you after
sana.
this.
Karibu sana.
I know I seem
Asante.
to have questioned it. I wanted to make sure I'm jumping into the right boat this time.
Karibu sana.
But
that is the
we
biggest
talked
defection
about-
that I will receive today.
Defection from where?
I know where you
We're
are.
together.
But continue.
We talked about the ideology that underpins ODM, and you talked about social democracy. Of course, that's very fancy, and we need those labels, but we do know that our parties are tribally driven, tribally based. Sadly, that is the state of affairs. So it's good that we're honest with these things. And of course, ODM is representative of Western and Luo Nyanza primarily. What I want to know is, do you have a strategy to try and penetrate other parts of the country? We've seen the DP do this with himself as an individual, and of course he'll galvanize this and it will crystallize into a party where he has cross-ethnic support. What are you guys as ODM doing? Of course, there's been the handshake, which is from the top. Now, from the bottom down, or at grassroots level, or even at media level, at any strategic level, are you looking to penetrate other communities?
But Jerry, what makes you think that this particular political party is just predominantly in the western part of the
I
country?
was going to
No,
start
no,
with
it is. That is the case.
First of
We've
all,
also got to be
Jerry-
honest and pragmatic.
Jerry,
Let's be honest here. Let's not do any rhetoric.
I must reject that characterization.
Coast,
because
coast,
We've got to be
ODM
okay. You've got coast.
ODM,
okay,
ODM,
let me ask
I
you my
think outside
question.
of,
Let me be more
you have
direct
already
with my
asked the
question.
question.
No, let me be more
answer.
direct because you're. I think maybe I was a bit broad and I'm giving you too much space to navigate. I'm asking, what are you doing to get the central vote?
Now, you
Which
see,
is
that
a big and crucial vote. I was hoping you'd pick up the nuance, but clearly you didn't. So
No,
tell
no,
me
no.
what you're going to do to pick up the central vote.
let me-
If I want to join your party, I want to join a winning party. You need the
let me
central
tell you-
vote.
Let me tell you, Jerry, as a young leader, first of all, there are things that I reject offhand. I will not accept such characterizations. ODM does not sit down.
Let's not
Just a
do the
minute, let me
rhetoric. Let's
finish.
be
Let me
honest.
finish.
Uh-huh.
ODM does not sit down and ask itself, how are we going to get the Kikuyus vote? That is a wrong
But
it is
the reality on the ground. We're talking politics. That is the reality on the ground.
So your new party, your new party member, your next new party member.
I want to know how you're going to help me win.
I didn't think
Jerry,
Wouldn't it be
your
nice
next,
if you
No, he
actually
can't
next-
refute what I'm saying. I'm
finish.
not going to
Let
let
him
him
finish.
refute what I'm saying.
your next
He's
party
going to be
secretary
politically
general,
correct and he's going to deny what is
Let
in the
me
ground.
finish.
What
Your
I'm
next-
telling you is reality.
Your next
And I
party
want to
secretary
join your
general wants to
party.
tell you how
Let me
he's
finish.
leading the party, so that you can even make
Okay,
that
my
decision.
question is, how does he intend to get the Kikuyu vote? If
Can
I'm
you,
coming
can
to
you
your
allow
party,
him? Then can
No,
you
he's
allow him
still-
to
okay,
actually
Now,
say it?
Sifuna, answer that question.
Let him say it in the manner he sees fit.
this place is so organized. I honestly did not expect that I was
Answer
coming
the
here to
question,
heckle.
Sifuna.
I'm not going to
It's
heckle.
just
We are
answer
going
the
to have
not
a
heckling,
debate that
this
is
is a
going to
debate.
help perspectives.
Discussion.
Sindio?
Yes.
Number one, any political party that proceeds from that premise that, now how do we get Kikuyu votes? You are doing the wrong thing. That is the siasa ya kitambo ile tunataka kukataa. Kenyans' problems do not know tribe. I am telling you that when a Gikuyu in Central is sleeping hungry because the economy is not working for them, the same thing is happening to a Luo in Nyanza. What we want to do as a country is to build a society that works for everyone. We hope that we can seduce every single Kenyan with the programs that we present at an election, the things that we want to do for this country. If it is about tribes, you will look for the shortest way, the shortcut, to be able to get the tribal vote. So it is, who is the kingpin in...
let's get him on board.
Let's get him on board. What does he want?
Is that what you've
Give
done?
him 2 V8 vehicles. That's what you're proposing.
No,
we
is that
do.
what you've done? You've
What
gone to
we
the
are
kingpin
doing-
of the Kikuyus?
What we are doing is,
And
as
given
a
him a
party,
handshake?
let us have a conversation with the people. Can life actually be better in this country? Are there basic things that we can do? Is there things that we want as a people, as a country, to leave behind? I would like for us, especially the new generation of people, of leaders. And in Nigeria, I consider you a leader. I want us in the next 20, 30 years to be having very different conversations when we sit down. Don't look at me as a leader of a Luo party. Don't look at me as a leader. I want you to judge me by the content that I produce in terms of solutions for the people.
What do you put on the table?
What I put on the table. So is it not possible if, for instance, I drew up a plan to end poverty across the country, and we do know that poverty affects everyone, including people in central Kenya, even in western Kenya where I come from. Are you telling me that really, if we had an honest discussion and we presented a plan to deal with poverty that has bedeviled us since independence, that a Kikuyu is going to look at it and say, I don't want it because it has come from Sifuna? It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's the sort of politics we need to leave
One of the
behind.
reasons
I've
we're
got
not
very many
able
questions
to
coming
overcome... Okay, you've got some calls coming in?
Very many questions coming in, not on the calls yet, but also on Facebook, where many questions are coming in. George Anakamba says, clarify the Aisha Jumwa situation and prove that she's not out to rock ODM or using the rock to the other camp, right? And then also somebody else is saying, look at today's headline, visa threat forced to Uhuru Raila deal. What is this and what's the situation with NASA as a coalition?
First of all, I saw those sentiments in the paper. They were made by Mudavadi. Of course, Mudavadi knows nothing about the handshake, how it originated. In fact, had he come for the swearing in, probably he would know what happened and when. Let me tell you this, and I will disclose this.
Which swearing
you
in?
can quote me. The swearing in of Raila as the people's president. He ducked, if you are not aware.
Oh, that's political rally.
Yeah, the swearing in ceremony.
Okay, yes.
So here's what happened in the lead up to the swearing in itself. And I speak this with the full authority. I was not the Secretary General then, but I was a member of the technical committee. Back then it was headed by Ndi. We were responsible essentially for the swearing in. We were the assumption of office committee for NASA.
You orchestrated
Let me tell you,
treason,
prior
treasonous
to
offense.
that swearing in ceremony, there were all sorts of pressure from diplomats, from civil society, from the churches, all of them. They were coming there to tell us, oh, this is not something you should do. And in fact, the threat that he's talking about, cancellation of visas, was a threat that was made to try and prevent
So it's
to avert the swearing in.
So it's
no,
true.
it's two different things. That
Prevent
is
the swearing in.
It's two different things. It was not, the threat was not applied at the time of the handshake. It was applied prior to be able to stop the swearing in. And let me tell you, it played a big factor on why some people did not show up. There are people who are, they were telling us they are internationally recognized diplomats.
Kalonzo and
They will not participate in something that is subversion of the constitution. That is the language we were hearing from people like Mudavadi. He himself
So what is
was the one who was
Mudavadi's intention
afraid,
with this statement?
was afraid because they were telling them, these envoys, they were telling them, oh, you know, this Mzee, he's at the end of his political future.
So what is his
Just a minute.
intention
Let
with
me
this
finish.
statement?
Let me finish.
And there are some
This
young people who are misleading
this
him.
Mzee is at the end of his political future. You guys don't go down with him. Let him go and do that thing. There will be treason charges. He will be arrested and so on and so forth. But we will need you to be there to provide leadership. They sank. They sank because they were refusing to listen to what the people were saying. The
Or
people were
maybe they were
saying
just obeying
that
the
we do not
Constitution.
care. Just a
Okay,
minute.
so what
Just a
was his
minute, Latif.
intention?
Just a minute, Latif. The people were saying, we are not going to engage in legalities. This particular thing that we are calling the swearing in is catharsis for us. We need people to know that we are also here. It is what we want. And immediately the oath was taken, people left without asking where are we going. Everybody just left and went
It
home.
diffused the
It
tension,
is a-
definitely.
And
it
without
is cath-
What I-
and
what
without
I'm
this-
asking-
it's cathartic for us. You have to understand that as human beings, we have an inborn desire to be felt, that we are also
To be
here.
recognized.
We are part of this country.
Absolutely.
You cannot ignore us.
To be relevant.
And that is
Now-
the exact genesis of the swearing in.
Okay,
So
what
when
is his
Mudavadi-
intention in this statement? That's what I want to know.
You must understand that, first of all, Mudavadi knows that his ambition is essentially sunk. He's going nowhere. Yeah, he's going nowhere.
Okay,
He
that's
has
your
tried it-
opinion. That's
No,
a-
it's not my
subjective. It is your opinion.
It is not an opinion.
It is an
Jerry,
opinion.
you
Now,
need
tell
to
us, what is
understand
his
that when you
intention?
call me,
What is his
he read all
intention?
my capacities at the beginning
Yes.
of this particular program.
No, we called you
I
to
am
ask you about
speaking-
ODM.
I
For
am
you to
speaking-
say about
No, no, no,
Mudavadi is an
Listen.
opinion, it's subjective.
Listen.
What
So
I'm
ODM
asking, in
ODM
your opinion, what is Mudavadi's intention with that statement?
Now you would have to call Mudavadi here. and
No,
ask
no,
him.
no, no,
But
in
I am
your
telling
opinion.
you, I am telling you, when I give my opinions, you don't want them. Then you go and ask me.
No,
for
I
my
want your opinion on his
I am
intention,
telling
not
you-
on where
I
he's
am-
going.
I am telling you.
Jerry does this all the time. So
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's
just-
fine.
Just go with the flow.
This is what I'm saying. Mudavadi knows his political fortunes are essentially over. He's going nowhere. He has tried to present himself as a compromise candidate, sijui safe pair of hands. It has not sold. He knows for a fact that he's going nowhere without the support of ODM. He's throwing tantrums. This is essentially what it is, because we have made it very clear that it is time as ODM to formalize the divorce
With Mudavadi.
NASA. It is time to formalize it, because at the stage at which we are, it is no longer possible for us to pretend
not
that we are
tenable.
friends. It's not
So
tenable.
you're answering that
Yeah,
question
so-
the person asked actually. So what's the status of NASA?
NASA is dead. It died at the swearing in. We are essentially just these are final rights. Whether we will cremate.
So you got a new partner in the BBI.
And did
now.
ODM die at the handshake?
No, we are alive. We are here. In fact, we have never been healthier.
You just-
we have moved, we have moved into a new
You're also
ultra
eating
modern-
meat.
ultra
You're also eating meat now.
Got a
eh?
better suit, actually.
Of
Let me give the numbers.
educating-
Let me
carry
give
on,
the numbers 0719 012 600. We don't want to lock you out on this conversation. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We've got the Secretary General of ODM Party, Edwin. We still call it the Orange Democratic Movement Party, right?
Yes.
Yes, the Orange Democratic Movement Party. The Secretary General is here. He's also the Vice Chairman of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. When it comes to political parties and political party democracy, this is the man to ask all your questions. 0719 012 600 CT. I interrupted you.
Yes, you did, but not as well as Jerry does.
Many strings to my bow.
You see, the question I raised regarding educating the public about the role of the opposition. Now, this comes into play. The public has assigned a role, a perceived role for the opposition. And it appears that they haven't taken into consideration what it is that role is intended to achieve. And it doesn't have to be achieved through vigorous or violent means. It could be achieved through what we are seeing as the handshake.
Absolutely.
But
There's collaborative leadership,
Yes,
absolutely.
but-
But remember, he
but
stated
people-
categorically they get money from the Politicals Act Fund, don't you? Now,
is-
with
that
that,
is
you
the
then
law.
have
That's
a
the
duty.
law.
It's the law.
That's
You
the
get
law.
money from
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You then have a duty to perform some roles, one of which is accountability, to put the government not under duress. But
That's not why we get the money from
no,
the
one of
political
which.
parties
The
fund.
other
No.
also, of course it
That's
is.
not
What
the
is the
reason.
reason? It's
No,
to
that's
uphold
what
the
I- what
tenets
I
of
meant.
democracy.
I begin a statement. You see, she's taken over and she's
So-
actually...
I want to
And
leave
you
that
are
because I want
pointing
to end on a
yes,
friendly
and
note.
she's actually
It
having
was-
my
it
discussion
was
on
your
my
question.
behalf.
It
was your
Yes.
question.
Yes.
It was your question.
Yes.
Or was it a statement?
It was a statement, and I was saying this. We cannot overstate the need for the public to actually understand the various roles that the opposition can play. Because if it's to achieve a certain end, even the handshake is achieving the very end that the demonstrations set out to achieve. It's just that this is now different. And when it's different and new and it's not understood, then people are puzzled. And the one thing they will feel is that now, given that this is Kenya, that the opposition is compromised.
I will tell you where all these sentiments come from, my brother. Kenyans are hurting, and that is an honest opinion.
Yes.
Kenyans are hurting. The economy is in doldrums. People have no money. They are struggling with school fees. Our healthcare is in shambles. That is what gives this genesis. Because honestly, everything that we do as politicians, as
So they want
political
someone
parties-
to speak on their behalf loudly.
No, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying everything we do as politicians, as political parties, is supposed to result in something good for the public. For as long as we are not seeing those results, Kenyans cannot see a difference in their lives, then really they think that there's nothing that you're doing. But here's what the civic education part is critical. Because we said from day one that even with the handshake, ODM did not join government. We have decided on a collaborative path that instead of Raila shouting from Mombasa and Uhuru is shouting from Thika, you can actually sit on a table and say, if we did this like this, we could achieve this. And we have seen some benefits. For instance, Uhuru was totally crippled in the first term in terms of the war on corruption. He couldn't move at all. Even in the face of, glaring irregularities within state corporations and within his government, it was impossible. Now, generally,
why was it impossible? Really?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
Are you going to take the credit?
I am going to take the credit and some more, and I will take you with me too. I will take it because let me tell you, the fight against corruption.
So no,
Listen,
what has Raila done in the fight against corruption? Let me hear this.
Let me explain. The fight against corruption.
And in a minute,
everybody
to go to
will
the top of the hour.
say that what was lacking then was political will. You need political insurance for you to be able to go after your friends
and
who
Raila
are
provides this
responsible for the
insurance. He's an
corruption.
indemnity of sorts.
And so the collaboration allowed
Exactly.
this to happen.
Sifuna, I gotta give it to you. You're a very, very good, astute politician. I want to ask you about what your party is doing to promote women leadership in terms
Now,
of.
that is a discussion we have started.
We are going to have this
Sure.
discussion. Also, we need to, of course, look at Kibra and what is happening with the Kibra by-election and what the ODM party is doing. We have the ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna in the studio with us this morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719-012-600. Also, you can comment on Facebook. Spice FM KE and Twitter, Spice FM KE. Please follow us. And you can also use the hashtag Situation Room. Good morning. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Thika Road is a parking lot, unfortunately, and it's the total opposite of what is happening on Gong Road, because it seems that the president cleared the way yesterday when he went to the show, and we still have great things happening on Gong Road as per no traffic. All right, Wayaki Way is as expected, and that's all traffic moving into the CBD. Nothing totally out of the ordinary today. It's a good day on the roads of Nairobi, and we'll keep letting you know what the situation is around about 9 o'clock. Seeing anything that we need to know or any routes where you see there's trouble, give us a call, send us a message. Number again, 0719-012-600.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, 2 minutes past 9 o'clock. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa. We are on 102.5 Kisumu, 96.0 Nakuru, 96.7 Eldoret, 90.9 Nyeri, 97.6 Malindi. And we are live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, Spice FM KE, on our website, spicefm.co.ke. In the room this morning, we have Mr. Edwin Sifuna, he is the Secretary General of the ODM party. He's also the Vice Chairman of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. And, most importantly, he's a Kenyan voter. And we're discussing issues pertaining to Kenya. But now, Njeri, before we went into the traffic break, you were asking about ODM and women in leadership.
Yes, I wanted to find out whether they place emphasis on women leadership and they encourage it within the party, and what provisions they make to ensure that they can put women at the fore in terms of elective politics, given that, of course, the playground or the terrain in which women have to contend is very difficult. What measures do they put in place other than having, wonderful looking people at the fore of their party and eye candy? What else are you?
Thank you very much.
Edwin,
What else?
Oh
my goodness. Take it with a pinch of salt.
Be modest.
Okay,
take a compliment.
so here's the first thing you need to know. We have a constitution that requires that
she's destabilized
the House
today,
of,
hasn't she?
Of Parliament must have 1/3 being of the other gender. So we basically have struggled as a Parliament with the 2/3 gender rule.
But as a party,
ODM, I am very happy to report to you that we are not doing 30%. We are at 29% elected women out of a total number of people in Bunge. We are at 29%, and we are hoping that we can push the envelope further.
I can come on board.
This is how it has to be done. We understand that because of the historical and cultural and social issues, women have had
disadvantage. They've been at a
big disadvantage in terms of participation in politics. So how do you try and even that playing ground? First of all, you ask yourself, like myself, how my journey to political leadership has been. You need opportunity. You need to create spaces where the people who are interested in politics, whether they are youth or they are the women, they can actually participate. So I tell young people every time that you are not going to come from zero in 2 years and then you are speaking at Uhuru Park at the final rally of the biggest political coalition, for instance. You need spaces. We need to be able as a political party to organize spaces, for instance, even at the local level, kabisa.
For women.
Let the local women, say in Kilifi, in Bungoma, speak before an audience of 20 people first. Give them opportunity to air their views.
So encourage
an audience
them as
of 100 people. Expose them, let them travel, let them sit in positions of leadership. I'm very proud as a Secretary General, for instance, that when we had the Miss President contest here at KTN, 2 of the 5 finalists were nominated MCAs from the Orange Democratic Movement. As we speak right now, one of them who did not win, one of the contestants, she's called Vivian Ta. She's now my personal assistant at the party. And it's not that she runs errands for me. I want to be able to expose her to political processes. So we go to rallies with her. We sit in meetings with her. She's able to see. I mean, you need to be in that environment.
She should come for interviews with you as well.
Yeah, she's actually here at KTN. So if you want to talk to her, just jump in.
Okay,
But,
on a more specific level,
to create those,
do you have
spaces.
funding that goes towards this realization?
Yeah,
of
so
ensuring
this is what we do, because even the political parties funds that we receive, they come with certain caveats. There's a certain percentage that has to go into those programs. So what we have done as ODM, and when I came in as a Secretary General, we had a problem, first of all, with physical structures across the country. We had a number of offices that had been closed. They had
Dilapidated and so on.
dilapidated. First of all, that is where we are beginning. We are creating these structures. Number 2, we are going into grassroots elections next year, so that we have people elected to be able to fill the positions on the ground. Now, we need engagements. We have a very active women league. They hold, these seminars, they hold these town hall meetings with women across the country from time to time. We are very appreciative of the support that we receive, both from government or the political parties fund, and even from organizations such as the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. Because through them, and we have partners such as the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, DLPD, DFID, they give us money and resources for these specific programs for women and for the youth. So that is the only way. And as a top leadership of a party, For instance, the CMD sponsors interactions between the top leadership of a party and young people in the grassroots. You feel very nice when you hold a town hall and the leadership of a party is there, the SG is there, the party leader is there. We tried it in the run-up to the last election with what we used to call Kikao. Kikao was basically you take Raila Odinga to Mombasa and you sit him in a room and he's surrounded by 1,000 youth from Mombasa that he doesn't even know. Let them have a conversation with him as a party leader. There is something that happens to you when you are able to shine in front of the people who matter. Because if you are just shining in front of people who cannot say, by the way, who was that young lady who spoke in Kisauni very well? Can we do something to ensure that she can be able to join leadership?
Right.
Yeah, so there's things like those. I have set
Encourage
targets
women.
for myself as a Secretary General. Those targets are both voluntary and involuntary because there's also a court order that is directed at all political parties that in 2022, every political party must run X number of candidates who are of the other gender. So it is my responsibility as SG to find these people.
I see it coming from a point of something that has to be done.
It has to be done.
Do you see that there then is enough representation coming from women who are offering them themselves into those positions, or is it something that now needs to be coaxed out of them?
Yeah, I think personally I have beef with how the women movement has gone about this discussion. Any person, whether you are a man or a woman, for you to be at that table, you have to have merit. It is a merit-based system. We will create certain advantages or remove certain disadvantages for you because of the historical and social issues that we have talked about, but there has to be something you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
So it is not
Not just
it's
your
not
gender.
Just
Because
the
you're a
qualification
woman,
is not
yes.
the gender. And I say this and I run into a lot of problems, even with young people. I tell them, your youth is not a qualification for anything. You have to, because there is, I think...
Is that
figures
what
show
people think? Is this the general sentiment, as opposed to them thinking that
some of them
merit.
think they'll just come and say, oh,
I'm
but
a
here
youth.
there is no
I'm a
women.
woman, so
But
therefore.
what constituency are you actually representing when you come to sit on the table? What are these things that you are bringing? What new perspectives are you bringing? Because I believe that sometimes you cannot just bring the gender perspective. You are a leader in your own right. For instance, when I elect a member of parliament in my constituency and she's a woman, she's a member of parliament. I don't expect her to go there to articulate issues for women. No, you articulate issues of your
For the
constituency.
constituency.
Yeah. So this is the argument we need to have, that people must pull up their socks, and this is why we are saying, as a political party, we must have this outreach programs that are able to then identify people. Sometimes I sit on TV and I see some very brilliant young women. They come on TV and they articulate their issues. I don't know if I can mention their names. I have personally reached out to those women and said, I need you in ODM.
because you can
I need
do a
you
lot
in
of
ODM
good
because I
propaganda
see
for
that
us?
no, it's not propaganda. That I see that
bring
you have
You're in line with our thinking as well.
not that our
as
thinking.
an ODM
It's not
party.
necessarily
It's
our
called
thinking
potential.
with our party. You have the right stuff. I mean, when you talk about the issues on the ground facing Kenyans and the solutions that you're proposing, they make sense to me. I say that I would like to have such brilliant people in the political
party.
Right.
Yeah, some of them have rebuffed my advances because of the
Because they have better
the
deals
propaganda that is generally surrounding ODM. All these people are violent.
People rebuff your
You
advances.
cannot win on that ticket in Central. You know, all these things that we want to leave behind. And just say that we want to build a political party that is representative of everyone, that is based on ideas, that has brilliant people who can actually, when you sit around the table, you can produce solutions for the country.
Edwin, tell us about that court order that you've just mentioned.
Yes,
There's
so,
a court order that requires political parties to have...
So what has happened is, because Parliament, the judiciary, everybody, civil society, they have struggled with this 2/3 gender thing.
Yeah.
So the argument is that really, for as long as all political parties clear candidates that meet that requirement, then we will essentially end up with a parliament that meets that requirement.
Sure.
So, but it has some challenges, Latif. We have to agree as all political parties
Because also
that
it's
in
an
certain
elective
constituencies,
process.
yes, it's an elective process.
You can't
that
force
in cer-
people to
you
vote a
can't
certain way.
you can't have
But you
a
can
candidate
encourage
for,
them to vote a
say,
certain way.
Embakasi South,
And force a woman
all
onto
the
them.
political parties must have a woman
A woman
candidate for this
Yep.
particular constituency. So you'll hear all the sorts of noises from all the men in Embakasi who wanted to run, because it will defeat the purpose. If, for instance, as ODM, I have presented a list to the IEBC that meets the 2/3 gender requirement, but I have a lady in Embakasi South who's facing 10 men. Yeah. with all the historical disadvantages and problems,
Yeah.
they'll probably just still run
Right.
It's a
around
difficult-
over.
it's a difficult-
So
it's a difficult one to
it is
achieve.
an admission by the public, by all these other entities that they have failed. Now they want to force it upon political parties, and that is what the court order is.
Okay, so what does it say?
But we are happy to comply. It essentially says when you present your list of candidates, it must comply with the 2/3 gender rule. So if you are presenting candidates for all the 290 constituencies, a third of them must be.
From where
And
you
it's-
see, don't you
it's-
think that makes sense?
It undermines
No,
democracy to a certain
I have
extent.
said to a certain extent it makes sense, but I've also told you the pitfalls. Because it has to be an agreement amongst all political parties, and which is why this forum such as CMD is important, that in certain constituencies, I think that's the only way it will work, that in certain constituencies we are
Block
going
them out
to,
for-
all of us will conspire somehow to only give tickets to women in that constituency.
Does that not undermine democracy?
It
though? I
does.
think that's where the
It does.
conflict
But you see,
lies.
the greater discussion is how are we going to deal with the 2/3 gender rule in
I
Parliament?
think it's
We have postulated.
sensitizing. What you need to
Just
do
a
is
minute.
sensitize the electorate.
Just a minute.
Focus on that.
Just a minute. This is a discussion. You see, the good thing with ODM is that we have solutions. We don't
But you
just
must
cry
listen. You
about
must listen also.
problems. Let me give you the
Solution-oriented
solution.
party. Perhaps that's another ideology that you need to
Yes.
put in.
But you've been crying
Let me
for
give
the
you the
longest.
solution. Let me
Take
give you the
advantage of the platform and
Yes,
tell us.
yes, let me give you the solution. We have argued that other countries have struggled with this thing as well, and there's a very simple solution. There is a representative system of election, like they do in South Africa, where you don't vote for
That's
individuals.
parliamentary.
Yeah, it's called a proportionate
representation.
representation system. Don't confuse me, Jerry. I know what I'm talking about. These are things I know you in government have not thought of, but we are here to provide solutions. So what they do in South Africa is that you vote for a political party, and the political seats, if it is 290 constituencies, are allocated on the basis of the percentage of vote that you receive. Then you have a list of people who will be members of parliament generally, not that for any constituency. These are the people going to Bunge. So on that list, it adopts a zebra. They call it a zebra pattern.
Yep.
The first person being male, the next will
female.
be female. And like that, and like that, and like that, until the end of the list. So if you have 17 political seats for Nairobi County, if ODM receives 90% of voters we are going to in 2022, it means that we are taking 90% of the seats. You essentially just take the list that was submitted by ODM and take the first
the
9.
top 15.
Exactly.
So inaitwa parliamentary system by the way.
Wewe sikiliza nikufundishe.
But the voting style is
Sikiliza
proportional.
it's called proportional
as opposed
representation.
to there is that,
Parliamentary
that is an
system.
element within the parliamentary system.
Mutanilipa civic education. A parliamentary system.
South Africa ni parliamentary system.
It's okay, but this is a voting system.
No, there's a
actually,
question
right?
I want
These
to
are
ask
voting
you because
systems.
we're running,
Voting systems, government, yeah.
we're running out of time. There's a question I want to ask you, and it's sort of an elusive. It's me coming back to a question I'd asked earlier, but I think maybe the way I framed it was too raw. But we've talked of inclusivity. We've talked of gender inclusivity. What about embracing other communities? Because ODM does have a reputation for being Western-centric. Western, as in Western Kenya, Luo Nyanza and Luya. And yes, you so rightly pointed out the coast. But in terms of central, what are you doing? I think I approached it in the wrong manner, and it's not something you'd want to admit, being at the fore of the party, that you have a strategy to bring in the Kikuyu vote. So let me phrase it differently. How are you going to ensure that you include leadership in your party from central? So if I want to come into your party, can I win votes?
Are you saying or suggesting that ODM doesn't exist in central Kenya?
I think I should appoint you to be my candidate. Because ODM, as I said, has structures in all the polling stations in this country. We have leadership in Kiambu. We have leadership in all the counties of central Kenya. I have opened an office in Nyandarua. I want to take you there and see it. I have a chairman
You're
in Nyandarua.
posting me Nyandarua.
No. I'm just saying. You must understand.
Olkalau.
We are there's an office in Olkalau for ODM.
No, and
Yeah? So what you need to understand, Njeri, is this: the way you win people over really is the solutions to the problems in their lives. It is that simple. And if we can agree generally that
Why
we want
haven't you been able to win people over then? Because we're
It is
tribally
because-
based. We
it is
cannot
because-
overlook
it is
that.
because-
We
it
cannot
is
overlook
because-
that.
It is because even despite our best efforts, we cannot remove the words that you are still regurgitating from
No,
your
no,
head
no,
and
no,
from
no.
your mind. You are
So
still
the way
repeating-
way you
you
win
are still
people over
repeating-
is to understand how they think, and how we think at the moment is tribal. I don't want you to. I know you want to put this
No, no, no.
utopian,
Listen,
idealistic approach
Listen, it's
to your
not utopian
politics.
or
But given its politics,
we have a
we're discussing.
responsibility, Njeri.
Absolutely, and we
have a
all do. And I'm not
responsibility.
suggesting this is the
Yeah,
best
and
route
for
to
me,
go
I
down.
will resist all efforts to drag me back into that era where I am only defined
You've
by
got
where
to
I
meet
come
people
from.
where they are.
No, this is
Sifuna.
what I'm
You have
saying.
to meet
Let me
people where
tell
they
you.
are. We are still tribally based.
Let me tell you.
What
don't
I'm
say that.
asking you.
If
We are.
You are still
we
tribally
really are.
based, you personally.
We really are.
Don't generalize. Because
No,
this is,
no.
this is
We're
what
not
is
going to
happening.
overlook that
Just
fact.
a
We've been
minute.
voting in tribal
Just a
blocks.
minute. That
What
is-
I keep asking is, what are you guys doing to ensure you
This-
have the central block?
I have answered
You've seen
that
the URP
question.
faction of Jubilee is
I have
penetrated
answered
and
that
they're gaining
question.
traction. What are you guys doing
I have
as
answered that
ODM? And I
question.
want to know, as somebody who wants to join ODM, to know I'm joining a winning party.
This is what I'm telling you. I have answered that question, Jerry. Our doors as a party are open to everyone. Every single Kenyan.
So I can
who
win a
believes in
ticket
the
in
aspiration-
Central on an ODM
who
party,
who believes
on
in
an
the
ODM
aspirations
ticket.
of a political
Actually,
party.
we do have a case of someone who actually won a ticket to parliament on an ODM ticket.
Before he
Just so that you
defected.
understand.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mburi Abu.
Yes,
You
okay.
won.
I
Yes,
want
it
to know what are my chances if I come to
Now
ODM?
that one is
no, I'm not
between
talking
you
about
and your
personally.
electorate.
No, I'm not talking
Jerry,
about personally.
there are
This
people who
highlights
lose.
what I'm
Just a
trying to
minute.
get at. It
Let me-
highlights
let me
something.
finish. Let me finish.
Let me
There
finish
are
my
people who
question because
lose,
you're answering something I haven't finished.
Elections in Central with a Jubilee ticket.
Absolutely.
They lose.
Because
It is
we're
dependent
independent
on
thinkers
you
in
and
Central.
the ideas that you give.
We're independent
the
thinkers in
electorate
Central.
for them to
What
vote
I'm asking, Sifuna, and I'm asking this, I'm going to personalize it, but I think it highlights or it sheds light on something that concerns quite a few if they're going to back ODM. Could I, as Jerry Thorne, win a ticket, win a seat under an ODM ticket in Central?
Why not? He has given you an
Okay.
example.
Have
of,
you have
of
you done
somebody
the
who actually
groundwork
did.
for me as ODM?
You do the groundwork.
No, I'll do my
yourself.
groundwork.
You
No,
are the
it needs the party.
candidate.
No, but the party
You are
it
the
works both
candidate.
ways.
Can
The
I
party
ask,
also helps.
is the
You can
expression-
lose even with the Jubilee
is the
ticket in
expression
Central.
is the expression of open doors countrywide enough to state that even if we have been voting on tribal blocks previously, is the expression of open doors by ODM
You must-
countrywide enough
Yeah,
to
you
take
must
away from
address-
the prejudice
Let
of
me tell
tribal
you,
voting
let me
or
tell you,
tribal
this thing
expression?
is very clear in my mind. You must address the tribalists in this country who will always want to define our politics in those lines. I will give you a very simple illustration. The people who are going to vote for the first time in 2022 were born in 2004. They were not even there for Kibaki Tosha.
Right.
They don't speak the language that we speak. Sometimes I hear this Luya saying, oh, Suju Luya unity. An 18-year-old Bukusu boy and an 18-year-old Maragoli boy will not be drawn into this Bukusu Maragoli.
They're not even
divide.
of that
They
dispensation,
don't
is
even
what you're
speak
saying.
that language. Yao ni ile ya wanaitanga nini?
Sheng.
Kuna
Oh,
ile
yeah.
inaitwa wa Mlambezi and wa Mnyonyezi. That's the language. So if you want to drag those people, you must
We
talk to them.
can't-
Are they going to be able to go to school? Are they going to afford education at the university? Are
Will
they
they
going
get a
to get
job?
jobs after they graduate? Are they going to be able to move out of their parents' houses? Are the jobs going to be well-paying jobs?
Isn't
That
this
is the
how-
language.
isn't this
Now,
the
that's
language
the
you have been
language
talking to
language
them in anyway?
expressed by the party?
Exactly.
Okay.
Sifuna, isn't this the
So
language
anyone
you
who
have been
wants to draw
speaking
me into
anyway?
the
I'm not. We can't.
Kikuyu,
No.
Luo divide,
We've
I
got
am
to
not
be
going to go into
realistic.
that.
You
You
know,
know,
there's some
Edwin.
resistance. There's been Raila resistance
you know,
in
I-
Central.
I
What are
am
you
of a
doing to
difference.
counter
The
it?
the issue of tribe, Edwin, actually now, just to update you, Ndu and I have always said we need to go to the next level, where we are called utopian, where we say let's not talk about we're the idealists. Let's not talk about tribe all the time and looking at political parties in tribe. So understand this, and you can answer the question as straightforward as possible. So there's a perception that ODM has a dominance in coast. There's a perception that ODM has dominance in coast and western, and not in other areas.
Eric, it's not a
right?
perception.
Based even on the number of MPs that you have in parliament, looking at that, there's that. However, what is it that ODM is doing to ensure that it wins more seats across other parts of the country?
But that is exactly what
And
I
the
have
strength of
explained.
the party.
I have explained that it is basically what I've been doing here this morning. It's civic education. We are saying that political parties,
You've been educating us this morning.
political parties need to speak ideologically. You need to speak solutions. I do not think that I can be turned away by Kikuyu youth because I have come with a message of this is how we are going to uplift ourselves as young people in this country. Because I am ODM.
That is
all this
definitely the
propaganda,
right
all this
direction,
propaganda
Sifuna.
that's what I'm doing as
It's
a
the right.
political
No,
leader.
you're on the right
I
trajectory.
personally, let me say this. I want to be very clear. I do not see any other way other than proposing solutions for the problem.
So you're not going to have any
There's
other
no other way.
You're on the right
So this
trajectory,
thing
but
of-
Are we
we
saying that
ignore-
one
we
solution?
ignore
Are
what
we
is
saying
there.
that one solution then is to not talk about the
This is
tribal
what I'm
way
saying. The tribal
this
and
is what I'm
focus
saying.
on
You
where we
cannot-
should
This
be
is
going,
what I'm
and that is
saying.
going to take the
Sifuna,
conversation
you cannot
away from
completely
that.
ignore it.
Yeah, this is
I
what I'm
understand
saying.
your trajectory, and I embrace
This
it,
is
and
what
I
I'm
like what
saying.
you're saying.
This is what
And
I'm
I hope
saying.
ODM is the pioneer of non-tribal politics as a
We
party.
are. We
that
are the
comes
only
in-
party that
No,
has a
but
footprint across
what-
the
okay.
country.
So
Let-
here-
let- let us
something
be
that we just
strategic.
post
So
to-
Jerry is
Let
saying
us be
you
tr-
cannot
strategic.
ignore it.
Yeah.
Let's look at
Either
Central
you
as a
answer,
voting
you are,
bloc.
you are choosing to ignore it.
You've
Unajua,
chosen to
it's
ignore
not
it.
choosing to ignore it. We are saying those who are preoccupied with it can do it.
Which is the voters.
We don't have time.
No, we have to be
You-
careful
I-
that
we
you're
don't have to
focusing
be
on
the
other
same
things.
place
No. What
and
you
the
don't
same
want to do
state
is
of mind.
disenfranchise a
No,
whole
no, no,
group of
no.
voters
This
who
I'm
they have
saying.
been
This is what I'm
conditioned to
saying.
think this way.
They have been
There's
conditioned
a
by
lot of
people
voters who think this way.
repeat
Are you
and
not going to embrace
regurgitate
them?
these things. That's
Okay,
what I'm
what are
saying.
you doing?
But
So-
Jerry,
This is my question
Jerry,
at large.
even as you
This
ask-
is what I'm
He's
trying to
answering,
get to.
Jerry. He's
I have
answering this
answered that
question.
question. I think
He's
that-
answering this
he's
question.
done
No,
the question.
Jerry
Okay,
wants it answered in a
he's
certain
refused-
way.
he's refused to answer the
I think
question.
what I need to do, I want to ask Njeri, what should I do in order to win the Kikuyu
Yes.
vote? You tell me
now
now.
you've got it.
No,
You tell
no,
me
you're-
because it
Finally.
is clear that
You
what
as
I
a
am
party-
proposing,
Well, enough.
you have information
Finally
that
you
I
got
don't
it.
have,
No,
that
I don't
it will
have.
not work.
So you
tell
acknowledge
me
that there is.
what-
No, I'm
what is it
glad.
that
First of all,
what is it that I am supposed to do? so that I
I'm
win
glad
the
you
Kikuyu vote?
acknowledge there is the Kikuyu vote,
No, I am-
and it's very important
You
that
are the
also
one
you
who's
acknowledge.
putting
No, you
words in
asked.
my mouth. Me, I just see
you've
voters,
asked
I
me a
don't see
question.
Kikuyu voters.
You've asked me a
let's
question.
her answer your question
Yeah.
now.
No, you have asked me a question.
It's
So
your
you acknowledge
question.
there's a block.
It's a question I'm
Listen,
asking
Sifuna,
you.
I'm trying to help your party here. There is resistance. No. There is resistance.
You're actually not helping.
You are not helping.
It's good that
No.
we
All
have
right,
this
so
discussion
Njeri,
and we understand.
Njeri, answer his question. What should he do?
That is not
as
my
Secretary
problem.
General
I am
of
asking.
ODM.
You can
what,
employ my
I
consultancy
have-
services.
I have
No, you
given-
can.
I have
You
given
can
what I
employ my
proposed.
services, and I will come and advise
Jerry,
and give you a strategy.
The only
So let's-
reason I
let's
have asked
close
the
on this
question
question
is,
then. Let's
I
close on
have
this
given
question. The
an
question
answer
has been
that
asked.
is not satisfactory to you.
It doesn't
You
answer
don't
the
think,
question.
yes, so how would you do it if you were
Now
in
How
you
would you
must
answer the
deploy my
question?
services.
I am not
on a
going to hire you.
consultancy basis,
For what?
and we shall take it from
For
there.
what? You are responsible
No,
for the government we have in
She's
place
going-
now. You
she's
should
going
take some
You know, I am of
responsibility
a
for the
different.
problems.
I am
You have
actually,
evidence
I'm,
of that?
I'm
Yes,
actually of
City.
a different
Yes, City.
thought process from Mr. Sifuna's. You see, he used a word that I liked. It's called tribalist. Huh? When you use the word tribalist, it has a very profound indication of negativity. It isn't positive. There's a heritage of ethnicity that we cannot run away from. We have it. There are advantages. It just happens to be a grouping that we emphasize for political reasons. But the truth is, it isn't negative in this country until and unless it is made. People assume that
It is
these
made.
Western countries are devoid of it. No. They just downplay it and euphemize it. But you cannot control how people group and how they socialize and how they interact. Ethnicity is just one of them. And even within that ethnicity, there'll be subgroups and other subgroups. Our politics is actually not tribal, as Njeri is trying to claim. Our politics is tribally motivated because it is a means to getting votes. But
Absolutely.
it isn't tribal.
But it is a bad thing. I do not assume that because I am a Luya, I was born amongst the Luyas, I should just stand in front of them and tell them, I'm your son. Vote for me. I mean, how many sons do Luyas have? You have to have something. You have to present a proposal on how you're going to change the stock of these people. So this is what we propose. And if it is clear that it is not a solution that is acceptable to Njeri, I am welcome to hear.
So can
what
I
other
ask again?
solutions
So then
she
can I ask
propose.
again?
Yes.
The way to get ahead, because
Yes.
clearly in everything, and for me, it is always about moving ahead
Yes.
in terms of making things better, getting to that ideal utopian area, whatever we want to call it, or that arena. The way to then getting ahead is to focus on the things that matter.
Thank you.
Focus on the things that matter and really try and say the language that people are speaking at this time for who are going to push the country forward is the business now that we should be involved in.
Exactly. I agree with you totally. 100%.
So we'll talk about BBI. We'll
Yes.
talk about Kibra. Let's start with Kibra and then we'll end with BBI. All right?
Yes.
So we saw, yes, and you said the membership of your party in Kibra told you that if you dare select a candidate and bring them to us, we are going to revolt. And then also soon after we saw, so they went through a nomination process, and soon after we saw the party actually apologizing to the other candidates. What was that all about?
Now, as with every exercise, we did our best. I personally think that the preparations that went into Kibera were amongst the best that I've seen since I was appointed SG. The National Elections Board just covered about everything. We had challenges that happened even during the general election. You will have a gentleman showing up at a polling station and not finding their name in a register, for instance. It happened in a few polling stations, and it was resolved. I was there personally on the election day. I checked and saw what the problem was. I ran back to Orange House. We reprinted the register for those polling stations, and people voted. So, of course, I have been a candidate before. First, for the ticket of a party, I did not get it. I was looking for a party ticket in Kandui constituency in Bungoma. I did not get it. I came to Nairobi. I was given the ticket for the Nairobi Senate. When you lose an election, it is usually a very difficult moment for people. So you must allow those people to ventilate. And a candidate who has lost will say that if it were not for this problem at this particular polling station, that is my stronghold, I would have won, all sorts of things. We are a leadership that takes responsibility. I am not ashamed to admit that we fell short. It was not 100%. It was 95%. I would have loved for it to be 100%, but there are shortcomings. As leadership, we readily admit that, yes, there was a challenge with the register at certain polling stations, but generally, I think the candidates themselves, and that is why it was so easy for them to even accept the result. We talked openly about the challenges we had, and we accepted that certain mistakes were made. It is a learning process. We will get to 100%. None of the candidates, or the 24 people who are looking for that ticket, has defected or joined any rival,
party,
as was expected by our detractors. The violence that they were waiting for, ballot boxes being kicked. They were so disappointed. I was getting calls from newsrooms saying, "Oh, you have denied us a headline. There are no photographs of ballot papers flying." All sorts of things, because we are trying so hard to do right by the membership of this party, to change the perceptions about ODM, to explain ourselves to people. So I was a bit, miffed, because there's people who will always go to look for fault. I have even said, if ODM successfully, steered the second coming of Jesus, and he came, and kila mtu ameona ndi huyu, there will still be people looking for a problem. Which robes is he wearing? Which colors are these? Who picked these ODM people?
Complete agreement.
So, he's wearing black.
We are very happy. We are very, very happy with the process.
And with any political process.
We listened to our people. They are happy with the candidate, and we believe that we will win this election by a landslide.
You will.
I agree. Were the mistakes to such an extent that you actually thought it good to return the nomination fee to the candidate?
This is another thing that I hear from the media, and I get very surprised, because this the 10 people who actually go to the ballot, they have all accepted that they are going to support the candidate. Every week, I am giving these people money, because they need money to put fuel in their cars, to join us in their campaigns. They are always with me. They need money. I am giving them every week. Nobody's talking about the disbursement I made this Monday. You're just looking at the disbursement that I made initially. Yeah, because they require resources, Latif. Yeah?
So it was not a reimbursement.
If it is a reimbursement, I have reimbursed them over 2 million shillings each as we speak today. Why would that be called a reimbursement? They need resources to be able to campaign for us.
This man knows how to speak, and he knows exactly what he said.
I'm in agreement with him on this one, so he'll have it easy.
He knows exactly what he's saying. So we saw that, ODM has apparently reimbursed money to candidates, and now he says, no,
it's one of the purveyors of fake news that is grounded here at Standard Group, and I've refused to talk to him from that day.
I gotta give it to you,
right? So he's blocked.
I blocked him, and he blocked him. Because we have to now, instead of condemning an entire media house, condemning an entire newspaper, go to individual journalists and say this is not journalistic.
This is Edwin Sifuna. He's a Secretary General of ODM Party. What do you have to ask him or tell him? 0719012600. Also Facebook Spice FM KE. We are live streaming, and you can go in there and post your comment on our website www.spicefm.co.ke. Good morning. 29 minutes to 10 o'clock.
How well do you know your country? Given a chance, where would you go? Not so many places, huh? Would you even know how to get there? Yes? No? Maybe? I don't know. Well, oh ye gallivanters and tourists alike, here is your chance to not only know, but also visit amazing destinations in Kenya with complete recommendations, guides, and tips on accommodation spots, wellness stops, and food joints all over Kenya. How you ask? Courtesy of the biggest locally targeted tours and travel magazine, Travelog. Travelog is your monthly pull-out magazine in the Standard newspaper every first Thursday of the month. With Travelog, enjoy the beauty of life that Kenya has to offer. Visit exotic and hidden destinations, be part of amazing conservation campaigns and projects as you simply enjoy Kenya. It's our way of putting Kenya on the map. Grab your copy and be aboard the fun wagon as you improve the quality of your local travel experiences. Travelog, Jione Kenya. Tired of living your same old life? Need to spice it up and add some flavor? Well, we can help you go from living to living it up. East Africa, are you ready to be a part of the most vibrant entertainment scene with the best, freshest music, travel tips and destinations, fashion, tech and health trends, as well as your favorite celebrities' lifestyles? Introducing your favorite entertainment magazine, Pulsar, the ultimate all-in-one guide that will give you more meaning to life. Catch up with your celebrity writers and contributors to stay up to date with what's happening around you, where and how you can be a part of all that. The lifestyle guide that has been missing in your life. Pulsar. Live it up.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Finally, we have it where most of the roads are easy heading into the city center and also out of it, except for the perennial issues that we see on Thika Road. Still a lot of traffic trying to get into the CBD this morning. Hopefully that will dissipate by around 10 o'clock, where half an hour sees us with police trying to diffuse the situation. No issues coming off Wayaki Way, except when you now get into the CBD and it seems to be chock-a-blocked. We're at that time of the morning where it's easy street, literally. If you see something that happens that is different, do let us know and we'll spread that information. 0719 012 600.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Well, 24 minutes to 10 o'clock. Good morning, and how are you doing? This is Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation in the room. I'm Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, Jerry Thorne, CT Muga, and we've got a guest this morning, and this is Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM. He's been here, he's been telling us about the party organization, how he's running the party as a Secretary General, as a spokesman for the party. We'll also discuss the role of ODM in Parliament or in opposition, as people who are supposed to keep the government in check. And we're now discussing Kibra, and we move into BBI. Just before we move into BBI, I've got a question that's coming on Facebook as well, Edwin. If Kibra is ODM's stronghold, why does the party look like they're in panic? Even had a fundraiser yesterday, arguably the biggest for a by-election, raising approximately 10 million shillings.
You see, this is some of the challenges we face, because as ODM, you are damned if you do, damned if you don't. So they will say, oh, this is your stronghold. Why are you campaigning? I'm like, at the end of the day, we still have to reach out to voters and to tell them what the plan is for them. It is about the voters. It's not about the political party. So if you don't campaign, they say, oh, you are taking this thing for granted. You think it is your stronghold. Now you have already won. That's not our style. Politics is about persuasion. And you have to be able to reach people so that you're able to persuade them. So we will, when we said we will put in every effort for us to win the seat, that is exactly what we do at all by-elections. In Embakasi South, we did the same. We fundraised for those candidates. We raised money for them. We were present. We had teams campaigning in Ugenya. We had teams campaigning in Embakasi South. Right now, people don't know that we actually, as a party, are involved in 5 by-elections. There is 4 civic seats and the Kibera seat, of course. There is Malindi, there's Marsabit, there is Garissa, and there's Kitui. So as an SG, I have all these things to do. So we have teams there. We are producing materials for them. Yesterday we had the materials for the candidate in Kibera. We have given the candidate in Loyangalani the materials, all of those things. We must put our best foot forward because we mean business when we say we want to win a seat. We don't take anything for granted.
Well, I've got some questions coming in on through the phone 0719-012-600. Adrian, I'll ask you to put on your headphones finally so you can hear these callers. We have this is Joel calling in from Kericho. Good morning, Joel.
Salama kabisa Eric, habari ya Kinanjiri City Muka na watu wote ambao wako hapo.
Mzuri kabisa.
Salama kabisa. Sasa Njiri, niko na swali kwa SC wa ODM.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Sifuna.
Yes.
Kuna vile nyinyi watu wa ODM amuzi sera zenu ezini kile ambacho mtafanyia watu wa area hizo penye huwa mnafanya kampeni. Sijawahi sikiza kwamba kwa sababu watu wanafanya kampeni wanaambia watu kile tutafanya ni hiki na hiki na kile. Kile nyinyi watu wa ODM mnafanya tu ni kusema tu Ruto hii mkipigia kura watu Ruto mkichagua mtu fulani mmechagua Ruto. Kwa nini sisi msiweze kusema kwamba watu hapo ili tunafanyia ni hiki na hiki na hiki?
Okay. Thank you very much, Joel. I also have another question from Yego calling in from Nandi. Good morning, Yego.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, first of all, I want to congratulate Edwin Sifuna.
The guest of honor.
He was doubting Thomas when he was given that to be SG.
Yeah.
But he's doing very well in that capacity. I think I congratulate him in his leadership.
Asante.
Now, swali langu ni, we've known ODM as a critical in the opposition. And though tunajua nyama ni tamu, but we want to see ODM still following some issues. Let's go there. We want to see ODM defending Wanjiku. Because we have seen things like we were talking about the failed irrigation project. Those MPs in the agricultural docket of ODM knows what happened. And we want to see these people defending us. Lastly, I want to ask you, Sifuna, alikuwa anamaanisha nini vile alisema ati Ruda is looking for war in Kibra? Thank you.
Okay. So there, take those ones first.
First of all, I don't think in this entire campaign I've mentioned the deputy president at all. I was not even part of, I saw that statement was issued by members of parliament in the precincts of parliament. It did not originate from me. So I think it's confusing the personalities there. I want to address this issue because it is an issue I've raised with many people on what it appears that ODM only focuses on during the elections. You see, this gentleman was calling from, was it Kericho? Now, if you are a news viewer in Kericho, we always have these news crews that come to cover our campaigns, right? So in Kibera, we will have discussions about the projects that Ken Okoth had begun, Kibera Secondary School, which is supposed to be finished in the next 1 month, Ayani Primary, all the projects that were going on. We have seen the fight against cartels who divert water supply and then sell it to residents. All the local issues are actually addressed. But national media will not cover local stories for you in Kericho. When I speak as a Secretary General, I will speak about the issues for Kibera. But the news media, because we get about 3 seconds each on TV at news time. So when you're sitting in Kibera, you'll only catch me discussing the national issues because that is what the national TV stations will report. So the impression is created that the entire campaign is about these national issues. But we do actually delve into these issues. And I have never seen a more articulate candidate in terms of bringing out the issues for the people of Kibera, whether it is the bursaries that his brother had put in place, a proper system where everybody was getting something, whether it is the issue of schools that are being built, whether it is buses for the schools, whether it is security, the high mast lights. All of those things are discussed and debated. But you will agree with me, even you as people who practice in the media, KTN News is not going to air unless they go live
the
when people
entire
are talking.
Kibra
Yes, they're not
campaign.
going to.
Can I
air
just
the entire
ask so I can make sure that gentleman's question is fully covered because he's not here? What is Sarah is policy?
Sarah is policy. Yes.
This is what the gentleman is asking. You never sell your policies, so maybe it's an opportunity for you to talk about what policies you have as ODM, as opposed to he's saying you simply criticize
But I have
the other
explained
party.
that. I have explained
What-
that
what-
because,
no.
Because I have.
So
I have
what are the
spoken to
actual
you.
policies? You've
I have
explained
spoken
why
to you.
it seems you
I
don't
have-
sell
I
the
have
policies.
spoken
What
to
are the
you.
actual policies? That's what he would like to know.
Jerry, please listen when we are talking.
I
have
listened.
spoken to you about what we are telling we are going to do for the Kibera people. I have told you that there was good work that was being done by the former ODM MP, Honorable Ken Okoth, in building schools. And we are saying that our responsibility really is to ensure that there's completion of those projects. I have given you Kibera Secondary School, which we are being told should be complete within the first 100 days after the election is done. We are talking about water. We're talking about bursaries for students because the biggest equalizer in Kibera is actually education. And that is why Ken Okoth had actually put it at the forefront.
Okay,
So
this
if that is
gentleman
not
was
Sarah,
calling- he was calling
if that's
from
not-
Kericho.
that's
What are
I'm
your
saying.
policies
then
nationally?
Then I explained. He was coming from the perspective of what we say in rallies.
So what
Wasn't that
are your national policies?
Am I misunderstood?
No. I want to make sure this. I want to make sure this gentleman's questions
and
are
then
answered.
as the Secretary General of a party, as ODM, you say, ODM is not talking about corruption. I have finished talking about water for the people of Kibera. I've spoken about education, bursaries, nini. And there's a screaming headline here that the Deputy President again has been drawn into another land grabbing saga. Immediately I say that is what is going on there. 9
So
o'clock
now,
news.
while you are
So that
here,
is the
while
problem.
you're on this platform,
Yes.
Sifuna, he's calling from Kericho, so he's not concerned about your actual policies in Kibera. What he's asking is, what are your
He
policies?
should have tuned
Hold
in
on.
earlier,
No,
because
that's
we have
not
gone
fair.
through
The
all
gentleman
these
is
things.
not here.
You asked me
What is your policy
ODM
nationally as ODM?
On what?
What is your
On
policy? What are you
Because
selling?
we have a
Muzie
land
Sarah,
policy. We have spoken about
so
it. We have
he
spoken
said-
about our policy.
No,
on
but the
women,
gentleman
our
feels
policy.
shortchanged.
Just
He
a
asked
minute.
you,
Just a
Muzie
minute.
Sarah.
Just
Joel.
a minute.
Do that
That's
for
not
him.
what he asked.
He
He's
said-
putting words in his
Edwin,
mouth.
Edwin,
But to
Edwin,
be fair,
hold on.
yeah.
What Joel said is when we see you, when we hear you speaking, we're hearing you speaking all the time about other political players. Specifically, William Ruto this, William
My
Ruto
goodness.
that, William Ruto the other.
You know-
why
No, don't interrupt. Wait.
Why don't
I have
we
understood
hear you,
the question.
Why don't we hear you
I have understood the
actually
question.
articulating your national policies? for
Absolutely.
Yeah,
ODM?
so, okay.
So
that's the question.
why
that
don't
was
you
asked.
take this opportunity to do that
Here's the
briefly?
problem. I have done it, Jerry. If you are not listening, that's not the
Okay,
problem.
do it for the gentleman.
So,
Clearly, he
what-
didn't catch it.
I
There's no
think I
harm.
have answered
Why are
him.
you
I wish
running
I had
away
his
from
number.
articulating your
I wish
national
I had his
policies?
number, I would call him.
But you have a brilliant
see,
opportunity and a platform to articulate your national policies. Why would you run away from that?
Listen, I have given you our policies one by one
You
because
talked
policies
about-
are broken down in segments.
Do you feel it's
if
right?
you do not have an understanding by
Do you-
now
do you feel
of
it's right?
where the party stands on issues to do with women and equality, freedom of the media, if you have no understanding of what we stand for in terms of freedom of the civil society, equality for all, this is what I've been doing the whole morning. You see,
Maybe you need to break them down into bite-sized
education-
chunks for the
education
public.
depends on two
Package
people.
it so that Joel
Education
from
depends
Kericho
on
can
two people
understand.
if it is going
You know,
to sink.
If
It
you
depends
tell
on
him
the
this
teacher,
distribution
and it
of
also
funds,
depends on the
distribution of
student.
resources,
So that-
explain
If the
to him.
student is not receptive,
Give him an
then
example of an
learn.
initiative
Hold on,
that
hold
you would
on.
want
If
to
we
run.
can-
Hold on,
All right,
hold
if
on,
we
guys.
can
Hold
see-
on, guys. So let's actually now talk about the issues that Yegon has raised.
Yes.
Respond to Yegon's question.
Yego's question was this: every time he sees us on TV, we are only talking about William Ruto. Isn't that what he said?
Yes.
And I have explained to him that because he relies on national
No, that
media-
wasn't Yegon.
No,
That's another. That was the
That's
previous.
Joel.
That's
That's
him.
Kericho.
I've written it
No,
down.
Yegon was
The-
asking
the
about
gentleman-
war in
the
Kibra.
gentleman- The second gentleman talked about Nyama Nitamu. I have written it down here.
Yes,
Isn't that what
Nyama
he said?
Nitamu is the
And he
handshake.
said, why are we not defending Wanjiku? And he
Yes.
talked about
That's the second gentleman.
So
agriculture
now
committee.
let's respond to
Yeah,
those
so
ones.
the second one, the agriculture committee chair is actually a gentleman from Rift Valley. He's not an ODM member. It is chaired by Jubilee, and the Jubilee has a majority in that committee. He says that Nyama Nitamu, because there is this perception that is going around that ODM is part of government.
You're now
that we're in
inside.
government. We have said it repeatedly. Being in government is actually something that is physical. You have to be in there. So if we are not in there physically, why are people forcing us to be inside government? We said it from the start that the handshake was not about people joining government. If it was, probably by now I would be a cabinet secretary. I would be sitting there in cabinet making decisions for the executive, but I am not.
You know, the gentleman who called from Kericho was talking about his perception and what he has understood.
What he has understood by what he has
Yes,
seen.
you see he may not understand that what he hears, because he's not there, is
It's
what
tailored for him.
Yes, or the media has left out what you have. And here, Njeri has a point, Mr. Sifuna. The opportunity was to explain to this listener that, look, we do explain our policies. We do. But sometimes they aren't aired in a manner that would suit you, or you aren't, or it doesn't get to you, because in every place, even where he comes from, ODM has candidates, and you can't have a candidate and not talk about your policies.
Exactly.
All
So,
the time.
so here's the problem.
Yes.
And I think I have said that.
Yes.
I don't know if it is possible to play back the things I'm
No,
saying.
yes,
he's
sir.
understood the
I
problem,
have-
but why don't you
that is
articulate a few
exactly
policies
what I
that he
have
can
said.
understand?
And if the listener had joined us from the start, we actually went through these things.
You
I don't
did.
understand
The question
why,
was asked and
why
you
the
actually
perception
answered.
is
You
going.
did. You did.
Sifuna,
You're-
what I'm not
why is there a
understanding, you have an
perception that we did
opportunity
not?
to
You're
sell
going-
ODM
I have
here.
already
Why are you
done so.
refusing?
But
There's
he's
more,
already done so.
there's
But
more
he's done
opportunity
that.
to sell them.
I've already
Why are you
done that.
refusing to
So,
sell
what
ODM?
specific
that
policy
will
would
do.
you
Order,
want to,
You guys need-
to hear?
Order, everybody, order. I have switched off all your mics. Order, because I have got on the line is Wilbur from Westlands, and Wilbur from Westlands is actually calling to ask you a question, because before you even come to respond, because you still haven't responded to all of Diego's questions. So first of all, listen to what Wilbur is asking. Wilbur, good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mheshimiwa.
Hi, Wilbur.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, thank you. Hello to you.
I'm Wilbert Say. My question to Mheshimiwa is very simple. It's very simple. ODM, their main mandate is just to use other political manifesto and using other politicians' name to gain votes to them. Like, let's say in Kibra, they say that, ODM is a burden for our honorable Raila. So Ruto team should not get even a single vote. Sifuna, what are you not understanding? And after handshake, you're in government. But as Raja normally say, kwa ground vitu ni different. Otherwise, I wish you all the best and let the best win in Kibra.
I wish you all the best as well.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Wilbur, thank you very much for your call. And it was a comment as well, actually, not much of a question. So the question is, why aren't you
It wasn't
getting
a
this?
comment. It was
But the
his
guy was
perception.
showing he doesn't understand what the policies are. And Sifuna has this great opportunity to articulate them, and he keeps curving.
But that is not true. He articulated the policies.
He
The
articulated
person
the
was
ideologies.
The person who was talking, what are policies?
Redistribution
If
of
they're not
wealth and
manifestation of
redistribution
ideology.
of wealth, social democracy.
These
Who
are
said
people talking
freedom?
about.
So distribution of wealth is yours. I did not say that. Who said that?
You said equal
That is-
distribution.
that is a totally
distribution of
different
wealth.
matter.
No, equal distribution of wealth.
equal
What did you talk about?
opportunities.
Equal opportunities. Equal opportunities.
It was
He
equal
said equal
opportunities.
and wealth.
Eric?
Let's talk about BBI.
Yes.
All right. So BBI, of course, the party leader of ODM is principal number 2 or number 1B of the BBI. And what is it that the party actually sees coming out? And you said that the party organ sat down and looked at the 9-point agenda of the BBI, and you looked at what is it that we can contribute to this. So what did you contribute?
I think we put out our views. They were covered extensively in the Standard newspaper, if I remember correctly. But we will quickly just run through them so that I'm not accused of
Not articulating.
ignoring an opportunity to articulate. So here's the deal, Latif. After that handshake, there was an MOU that was signed between the president and Honorable Raila Odinga. It has 9 points. These people, the two leaders, have identified and said these are the biggest problems that are facing the country from independence. We have lack of inclusivity, corruption, challenges to devolution, shared prosperity, it is one of them, safety and security is one of them, divisive politics, ethnic mobilization around politics, all of these things. What we did as a party initially is to set up a committee, a technical committee, and I was part of that committee, to look at those 9 issues and see if we were asked as a political party, how would you go about addressing these problems that have been identified by these two leaders? So we asked ourselves those questions. When it comes to ethnic antagonism and ethnic mobilization, what are the causes of ethnic antagonism? What is this thing that people are always fighting over? Why are there people who think that the only way to win an election is to cobble up a coalition of X tribe and Y tribe and ignore totally the issues? Yeah, like I'm being invited here to do, just to in order to be a winning party. You know, as a lawyer, we are trained to do something, to be independent from winning at all costs. You don't have to win at all costs so that you lose your soul in the process of winning just because you want to be a winner. No. So we have proposed certain solutions. We have said, for instance, the biggest problem with devolution is that the people we elected first to implement this constitution were not big believers in devolution. They are mostly centralists. When I say centralists, I don't mean they come from I
that
mean,
rider was important.
yes. No, because I know Jerry is here.
No.
Centralists mean they believe in a central government.
Policy.
Yes, as a policy.
As
So
opposed
you
to
will
right
see
wing or left.
They are all efforts to frustrate even devolution. This year we had a spectacle where, because of a fight between the Senate and the National Assembly on the division of revenue bill, counties were essentially going without money for long periods. So if you are going to strengthen devolution, what proposals are you going to make? How do you address the specter of corruption at the local level? Yeah, that people feel that yes, we might add money to these governors, but still the levels of accountability and the productivity of that money is still at a low point. You propose solutions. We have proposed initially that yes, we needed to increase the allocation to the counties. We need to put in place a mechanism that is self-executing, that money to the counties will go automatically without the governors having to travel to Nairobi to beg anyone, because this is something we gave unto ourselves as Kenyans. We want to strengthen the hand of the oversight bodies, whether it be the county assemblies and the ESCC and the DCI, to be able to combat the problem of corruption at the counties. So those proposals have been made. This is, in our view, how we can strengthen devolution.
Was
Number
there any
two,
consultation with this technical committee that
yes,
came up with these solutions?
yes.
Was there any public
So
participation or any consultations?
This is an internal document. I believe all entities, including individuals, were invited to make proposals to BBI.
To the BBI.
I am sure you have capacity to put together an MOU. They gave an email. You should have sent your views. Now I'm talking about the views of ODM.
Okay, in these views of ODM, did they take into account party members'
I will
views?
give you the story, Jerry. So as a technical committee, there were certain proposals that were made. Yeah. On the issue of representation in parliament, for instance, we have proposed as a political party the proportional representation system that we were talking about earlier. That if we adopted that system, probably we would end up with a balanced house. We have spoken about safety and security, reviewing of the police command, because we have borne the brunt of the brutality that is meted upon our supporters and the public generally by the police. We have proposed a different structure of command and personal responsibility for all police officers, so that they cannot hide behind the command. It is there in our proposal. We have proposed, for instance, on the question of corruption, that if we are in government as ODM, if you are a member of that government, you are not allowed, whether directly or indirectly, to do any business with government. It's a proposal.
So you want
So
to
you can laugh
overturn-
it off, but for us, we think that the genesis of all corruption is people who want to trade with government.
insider trading,
Because
so to
I am,
speak.
I'm the person in charge of a ministry.
And how are
I
you
know
going to
the
police
ministry.
that and enforce that?
That's now where
How do you propose
this is the
that
good
is
thing with
enforced?
sitting with people from ODM. We think about these things,
Together.
Jerry. We think about these things. So it's not just saying, "Oh, corruption is a big problem," but you don't propose solutions. We have spoken about how we end this ethnic antagonism. We have a history with the president's seat in this country. It used to be an all-powerful seat, and we have gradually gone reducing the powers. But still, there is a problem, because people feel that the only way Luyas will get an opportunity to eat is if Luya is president. The only way, even when we hear, "Oh, how are you going to take care of our interests in government?" We want a government that is it's tribe neutral, that works for everyone. When you propose policies, don't propose policies for the Bukusu. Propose a policy for Kenyans. These are solutions for problems that affect Kenyans.
So this is where
So we have proposed on that particular limb that we could have a system of parliament that works, a system of government that works. We have a parliamentary system with a head of state and the prime minister. There are clips that I've just been doing rounds recently of the experience with the prime minister in this country. What we have right now is a system where even members of parliament cannot directly ask a question to a cabinet secretary. It is difficult for them to do it because you have to go through your committee chair. So the committee chair will seek a statement from that minister. They never appear before the people's representatives to answer questions direct there and then. If you remember that time when Raila was prime minister and there was prime minister question time, that is the time, how will you ever, as a representative of the people, for instance, if I'm elected as a member of parliament, maybe for Kibera or for, if you have the head of state or the person in charge of government there, and you're asking him, boss, you said this particular road was going to be factored in.
5 stadium.
What is it? Yes, where the 5 stadium? Let him be the one to answer those questions there instead of hiding behind committee chairs and CG reports from where. It is a good system. Number 2, if you delink the government from the state, there are certain benefits. Right. We have seen it in other countries. These are the proposals, Latif, that we have made. But we have a rider. We give our views as a party. When the technical committee completed its work, and I want to come to Njeri's question, I called all the 47 chairmen of ODM in the counties. We presented to them, this is what we are thinking as the national as a national leadership. What do you think? They removed things, they added things,
so those
and the final document,
the party machinery,
the final document, because Njeri, you must understand what leadership is.
Tell me.
Leadership means seeing things that other people cannot see.
That's a rhetorical question.
Seeing things that people cannot see.
Edwin, I've got to say,
leadership also means crystallizing things that people want and people need. You could have listened to them bottom-up leadership.
I've got to say thank you for coming. So say your last thing.
So our proposals are not the proposals of the BBI team. We have just put in our views, the way that Ford Kenya did, the way that Jubilee did, the way that ANC went there and made their proposals, the way that many
individuals
also contributed, so that it should not be taken that what we propose is what is going to
ODM.
Absolutely.
Right.
Edwin, thank you very much for coming this
Asante
morning.
kwa kunialika.
And we'll want you to come again especially when this BBI report comes out.
Absolutely.
We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, whether this is what you had presented to them or what you think. Thank you very much also for joining us. This is the Situation Room. We've been with you since 6 a.m. We've had Edwin